Well, we can get going if he's here by the time we go through everything.
See who this is. Oh, okay.
Not Tim.
All right.
For you just coming in, over on the table there's actually copies of the warrant articles if you want a copy. Ready?
Yep.
You're on.
All right, thanks.
Welcome to our public hearing meeting on January 4th. We will be considering the amendments, and we will first take a roll call, please.
Actually, January 3rd.
Okay, Tom Alberti is excused. Karen Robinson,
Here.
Lori Millette. Okay, Chuck Fowler,
Here.
Richard Anthony,
Here.
Tim Moore. Okay, Bill Coy,
Here?
and Victoria Healy.
Here. Okay, so I guess there's not enough to fill the absentees, but we're going to elect Richard Anthony to be the voting member. Place one of them.
Right.
Okay. Like I said, welcome to our meeting, and what we're going to do is, we're going to read the amendment that is in front of us.
Do you want to
first.
do the minutes first?
Oh, I'm
Get those
sorry.
out of the way.
Roll call and then minutes. Minutes. I was just anxious to get started.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from December 20th, 2023.
I second it.
Second by Richard. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. What is it, 4?
That's it.
That's it. Okay,
You don't have to take your shoes off today to count.
yeah, here we are. Okay, so. what-
Now you open the public hearing, right?
Huh? Yes, opening for the public hearing. So do I have a motion?
Yeah, let's open the public hearing.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. Bill and Chuck? We opened it up? Okay, all right. What I wanted to do was read the amendment first. And then we'll have the board discuss it. And then we'll open it to the public. If you want to make a comment, that's what we're accepting, your comments. And then we will vote to recommend or not. Okay?
All right. Now we start off reading?
All right. Would you like to read the first one, Bill?
Sure, I'll help you out. The proposed Plastow zoning amendment, Z-24-01. Are you in favor of amendment number 1 as proposed by the Plastow Planning Board to the Plastow zoning ordinances? Article 5, establishment of districts and district regulations, table 220-32K, industrial 2, by deleting aviation as a permitted use in the district. The proposed Article Z-24-01, the voter's note is, the proposal is to delete aviation as a permitted use in Industrial 2 zoning district.
Okay. Discussion.
I'd say that one's pretty easy, it's just
Yep.
deleting one word,
Okay.
aviation.
Any public comment? Oh, okay. All right. So let's go with the vote.
And that would be, yeah, so,
Yeah, I move the proposed zoning amendment Z-2401 be posted in the warrant for March town meeting as recommended by the planning board.
I second it.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, yep. Okay. 500? 5, see, I'm used to saying 5 now, now it's only 4.
yeah.
Okay, 400.
All right, the next one, proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z-24-02. Are you in favor of amendment number 2 as proposed by the Plastow Planning Board to the Plastow zoning ordinance, Article 10, home occupation, section 220-67. Conditions by adding the words total, which includes cars, trucks, and/or trailers, to letter G to read. Section G, sufficient off-street parking for the employee and clients is to be provided. Any required deliveries can only be made by vehicles consistent with normal residential activities between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. The outside parking of not more than 2 business vehicles total, which includes cars, trucks, and/or trailers for each dwelling unit on the lot, is permitted in all residential districts, provided the vehicles. Proposed Article Z-24-02, Voters Note. Home occupations are not intended to change the character of a residential neighborhood. It is not clear in the ordinance if business vehicles, including trailers, or if it was limited to just trucks and cars. This is to clarify that the restriction of 2 commercial vehicles is inclusive of all business-related vehicles. This is applicable to home occupations only. Commercial vehicles, example, company vehicles assigned to an employee to take home, are addressed elsewhere in the zoning ordinances.
Okay. Motion? Right. All right. I move the proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z 2402 be posted in the warrant for March town meeting as recommended by the planning board.
I second it.
Okay, let's take the vote. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Aye.
Good.
Okay.
Agreed.
Proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z-24-03. Are you in favor of amendment number 3 as proposed by the Plastow Planning Board to the Plastow zoning ordinance? Article 15A, solar collection systems as detailed below. Amend subsection 220-50-1, objectives and purpose, by modifying the phrase, it would delete this, the word this, and it would read ordinance to the solar ordinance and by adding a second sentence to the second paragraph as follows. In doing so, the solar ordinance will help protect the general health, safety, and welfare for all Plastow residents, as well as making sure the ordinance is in compliance with applicable state and federal laws. Amend subsection 220-50-2, definitions, by adding new definitions, modifying definitions, and listing all definitions in alphabetical order as follows. Photovoltaic system, also referred to as photovoltaic installation, an active solar energy system that converts solar energy directly into electricity. Rated nameplate capacity, maximum rated alternating current AC output of solar collection system based on the design output of the solar system, sometimes measured in direct current DC at the output of the solar panels. The AC measurement is the output of an inverter that convert the DC power to AC power. Solar access, the access of a solar energy system to direct sunlight. Solar collection system mounts. A, roof mount, no change in definition. B, ground mount, no change in definition. C, carport mount, a solar collection system of any size that is installed on a carport, roof only, over a commercial/industrial parking area. Solar collection system sizes. A, small system, no change in definition. B, mid-size system, no change in definition. C, large system, no change in definition. D, very large system, no change in definition. E, hot water solar system. Sizing for these systems shall be based on solar land coverage only. Solar energy, radiant energy received from the sun that can be collected in the form of heat or light by a solar collector. Amend subsection 220-50-3. Table of permitted uses by adding the commercial 3 C3 zone to the commercial 1 C1 zone column, making C1 and C3 permitted uses for solar identical, and by deleting the word solar from the system names in the solar system type column. Amend subsection 220-50-4, roof mounts, by adding a new paragraph 3 as follows. 3, the highest point of the roof mounts may not exceed 55 feet and must have the fire chief's approval if the highest point exceeds 47 feet. Amend subsection 220-50-5, ground mounts, by adding a new sentence to the second paragraph as follows. In no case shall the height of the panels exceed 20 feet. Amend subsection 220-50-5, ground mounts, by changing the setback requirement in paragraph 4 from 200 feet to 50 feet. Adding new section 220-50-11, abandonment as follows. All ground-mounted solar collection systems that are no longer in use shall be considered abandoned and must be removed by the property owner in 150 days or less after the abandonment occurs. Proposed Article Z-24-03, the voters' notes. The revisions presented in this amendment are based on the recommendations from the Energy Committee that correct an omission, add relevant definitions, and propose height and setback distances.
Okay, any discussion? On the board? Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, we will go ahead and take the vote. Motion,
I move that proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z-24-03 be posted to the warrant for March town meeting as recommended by the planning board.
Second it.
Richard second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
500, 400, I keep saying 5. Okay,
Proposed Plastow zoning amendment, Z-24-04. Are you in favor of amendment number 4 as proposed by the Plastow Planning Board to the Plastow zoning ordinance, Article 4? Natural Resources Protection, subsection 220-19, stormwater management regulations as detailed below. Repeal and replacement of the following sections, subsection 220-19-1, purpose, and subsection 220-19-3, minimum thresholds for applicability. Amend subsection 220-19.3, minimum thresholds for applicability by changing the minimum threshold for applicability from 20,000 square feet to 15,000 square feet. Deletion from the zoning ordinance to be moved to the site plan regulations, subsection 220-19.4, other required permits, subsection 220-19.5, construction/post-construction regulations, and subsection 220-19.6, operation and maintenance. Deletion from the zoning ordinance, subsection 220-19-3.1, responsibility for administration, subsection 220-19-3.2, severability, subsection 220-19-3.3, ultimate responsibility, sample town of Plastow notice of violation, and sample stormwater permit applications. The full language of the replacement text is available on the planning board's webpage, and hard copies will be available at the poll. Now I'll read what they actually are, so we have it out in public.
okay, you gonna read them all? All righty,
I was told they had to.
okay,
So, for subsection 220-19, stormwater management, deleted will be regulations, and ordinance will be put in its place, and also deleted will be added 3.08-22 ATM by Article Z-22-2. Added will be to subsection 220-19.1, purpose. Added will be the purpose of post-construction water management standards is to provide reasonable guidance for the regulation of stormwater runoff to protect local natural resources from degradation and prevent adverse impacts to adjacent and downstream land, property, facilities, and infrastructure. These standards regulate discharges from stormwater and runoff from land development projects and other construction activities to control and minimize increases in stormwater runoff rates and volumes, soil erosion, stream channel erosion, and non-point source pollution associated with stormwater runoff. The goal of these standards is to establish minimum stormwater management requirements and controls to protect and safeguard the general health, safety, and welfare of the public in the town of Plastow. The ordinance seeks to meet that goal through the following objectives. A, minimize increases in stormwater runoff from any development to reduce flooding, siltation, and stream bank erosion, and maintain the integrity of stream channels. B, minimize increases in non-point source pollution caused by stormwater runoff from development which would otherwise degrade local water quality. C, minimize the total volume of surface water runoff which flows from any specific site during and following development to not exceed the pre-development hydrologic condition to the maximum extent practical as allowed by site conditions. D, reduce stormwater runoff rates and volume soil erosion and non-point source pollution wherever possible through stormwater management controls, and to ensure that these management controls are properly maintained and pose no threat to public safety or cause excessive municipal expenditures. E, protect the quality of groundwater resources, surface water bodies, and wetlands. Deleted will be the purpose of this ordinance is to provide for the health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of the town of Plastow through the regulation of non-stormwater discharges to the storm drainage system to the maximum extent practicable is required by federal and state law. This ordinance establishes methods for controlling the introduction of pollutants to the municipal separate stormwater systems, MS4, to comply with requirements of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES, permit process. The objective of this ordinance are A, to regulate the contribution of pollutants to the municipal separate storm sewer systems, MS4, by stormwater discharges by any user. B, to prohibit illicit connections and discharges to the municipal separate stormwater sewer systems. C, to establish legal authority to carry out all inspections, surveillance, and monitoring procedures necessary to ensure compliance with this ordinance.
Okay,
No, I'm still going.
all right. Just tell me when.
I got a few pages here. The ordinance covers all areas within the town of Plastow, including but not limited to the area designated by the EPA as an urbanized area in accordance with the town's authorization to discharge under the general permit for stormwater discharge for small municipal separate storm sewer systems, MS4. Subdivisions and site plans shall include plans for managing stormwater and controlling erosion and sedimentation as provided below. Any errors or omissions in this ordinance shall not exempt applications from complying with applicable state and federal statutes. In the event of conflicting requirements pursuant to NHRSA 676:14, the strictest standard applies. This ordinance shall become effective upon the adoption by the Town of Plastow Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board in accordance with the provisions of RSA 147, 41:11, RSA 674:16 and 17, and 476:36 and 44. The Town of Plastow shall administer, implement, and enforce the provisions of this ordinance. Any powers granted or duties imposed upon the Town of Plastow may be delegated in writing by the town manager to persons or entities acting in the beneficial interest of or in the employ of agency. The standards set forth herein and promulgated pursuant to this ordinance are minimum standards. Therefore, this ordinance does not intend nor imply that compliance by any person will ensure that there will be no contamination, pollution, nor unauthorized discharge of pollutants. All right, now we're on page 7.
Okay, we don't have to read the definitions, right?
I just have to read everything in red.
Okay.
Do you want to switch off?
I'm on a roll.
All right.
That's what I said. I'll be glad to take off and read. Oh, yeah.
Subsection 220-19.3, minimum thresholds for applicability. This is to be added. An applicant for any land use related permit from the town of Plastow shall design and submit a custom construction, stormwater management, and erosion control plan to the planning board or their agent for any tract of land being developed, redeveloped, or subdivided, and for any tract of land being subdivided or developed in a manner that would be subject to site plan review, where one or more of the following conditions are proposed. A cumulative disturbed area exceeding 15,000 square feet. B, construction or reconstruction of a street or road. C, a subdivision of 2 or more building lots or planned residential subdivision lot. D, proposed work adjacent to a wetlands buffer. E, distributed critical areas. See definitions for disturbed areas and critical areas. 2, a waiver of this ordinance may be granted by the planning board. The applicant must provide evidence in writing to support the request for waiver due to the size or character of the project or the natural conditions of the site. 3, the following activities are considered exempt from the ordinance. A, agricultural and forestry practices located outside wetlands and surface water setbacks and/or buffers. B, resurfacing and routine maintenance of roads and parking lots. C, exterior and interior alterations and maintenance to existing buildings and structures. To be deleted will be next. Applicability. An applicant for any land use related permit from the town of Plastow shall design and submit a custom construction, stormwater management, and erosion control plan to the planning board or their agent for any tract of land being developed, redeveloped, or subdivided, for any tract of land being subdivided or developed in a manner that we subject to site plan review when one or more of the following conditions are proposed. 1, a cumulative disturbed area exceeding 20,000 square feet. 2, construction or reconstruction of a street or road. 3, a subdivision of 2 or more building lots or a planned residential subdivision lot. 4, proposed work adjacent to a wetlands buffer. 5, disturbed critical areas. See definitions for disturbed areas and critical areas. The applicant shall design and submit a custom permanent stormwater management and erosion control plan to the planning board or their agent for any tract of land being developed, and redeveloped, or subdivided. The submission shall occur for subdivision at the final review phase during the non-residential site review process as part of the building permit review, depending upon the skill of a project proposed or is directed by the planning board or the designated agent. Relief from this ordinance may be granted by the zoning board of adjustment. The applicant must provide evidence in writing to support the request for waiver due to the size or character of the project or the natural conditions of the site. Amended 3-14-23 ATM by Article Z-23-18. This ordinance shall apply to all water entering the storm drain system generated on any developed and/or undeveloped lands unless explicitly exempted by an authorized enforcement agency. Subsection 220-19-3.1, responsibilities for administration. The town of Plastow shall administer, implement, and enforce the provisions of this ordinance. Any powers granted or duties imposed upon the town of Plastow may be delegated in writing by the town manager to persons or entities acting in the beneficial interest of or in the employ of the agency. Subsection 220-19-3.2, severability. The provisions of this ordinance are hereby declared to be severable if any provision, clause, sentence, or paragraph of this ordinance or the application thereof to any person, establishment, or circumstances shall be held invalid. Such invalidity shall not affect the other provisions or application of this ordinance. Subsection 220-19-3.3, ultimate responsibility. The standards set forth herein and promulgated pursuant to this ordinance are minimum standards. Therefore, this ordinance does not intend nor imply that compliance of it by any person will ensure that there will be no contamination, pollution, nor unauthorized discharge of pollutants. In all cases where stormwater management activity takes place, the sample form shall below must be submitted with subdivision plan or site plan. Sample stormwater permit application. Failure to provide all required materials and information could result in the review of the application being delayed for consideration. The applicant certifies to the truth of the following facts as part of his or her application. 1, name of applicant, address, telephone / fax numbers. 2, name of engineer, surveyor, agent, company address, telephone, fax numbers. 3, address including map and lot of property for which permit is requested. 4, type of request, commercial, industrial, subdivision, single lot development, municipality, utility. Name and address and complete mailing addresses of owners if different from applicants. Description of the project for which a stormwater and erosion control permit is requested. Include development, name, type, start, date, and total square footage of land to be altered, cleared. Attach additional pages as necessary. 7, required form submitted, 10 copies for all supporting materials. Legal description, drainage and erosion control plan, stormwater management plan, calculations, and drawings. I have reviewed subsection 220-19 of the Town of Plastow zoning ordinance regarding stormwater regulations. For residential construction, the Town of Plastow Department of Building Safety must be contacted for inspection within 1 business day or rough grading completion. I further grant the right of entry onto this property as described above to the designated personnel of the town for the purpose of inspecting and monitoring for compliance with the aforesaid ordinance. Signature of applicant, date of submission. Subsection 220-19-4, other required permits. In addition to local approval, copies of the following permits shall be required if applicable. A, RSA 485-A:17, require a permit from the New Hampshire Water Supply and Pollution Control Division for any person proposed to significantly alter the characteristic of the terrain in such a manner as to impede natural runoff or create an unnatural runoff. Regulations require this permit for any project involving more than 100,000 contiguous square feet of disturbance, or if such activity occurs in or on the border with the surface waters of the site. B, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES, stormwater discharge permit. A permit issued by the EPA or by the state under authority delegated pursuant to 33 U.S.C. Section 1342B that authorized the discharge of pollutants to water of the United States. C, for a cumulative disturbance of 1 acre of land that EPA considers construction activity, which includes but is not limited to clearing, grading, excavation, and other activities that expose soil typically related to the landscaping, demolition, and construction of structures and roads. A federal permit will be required. Consult EPA for specific rules. This EPA permit is in addition to any state or local permit required. To apply, the entity of individuals responsible for construction site operations shall file a notice of intent, NOI, with the EPA postmarked at least 24 hours prior to work beginning. The EPA will respond within 2 weeks with a written permit provided the NOI meets that criteria. Subsection 220-19.5, construction, post-construction regulation. A temporary construction stormwater management design. The following standards shall be applied in planning for stormwater management and erosion control as related to construction. Additionally, the planning board, by its adoption of this ordinance, has incorporated the same reference as requirement of its subdivision and site plan regulations so that the plan and application contemplated hereunder should be presented to the planning board in connection with any such application as well. Such submission to the planning board shall be in addition to any requirements to stormwater drainage system design that may also be contained in applicable subdivision and/or site plan regulations. 1. All measures in the plan shall meet as a minimum the best management practices set forth in the New Hampshire Stormwater Manual, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, and the Stormwater Management and Erosion and Sediment Control Handbook for Urban and Developing Areas in New Hampshire. Rockingham County Conservation District, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, Soil Conservation Services, now the Natural Resources Conservation Service, August 1992, is amended from time to time. 2. Whenever practical, natural vegetation shall be retained, protected, and supplemented. The stripping of vegetation shall be done in a manner that minimizes soil erosion. 3. Appropriation, erosion, and sediment control measures shall be installed prior to soil disturbance. 4. The area of disturbance shall be kept to a minimum. Disturbed areas remaining idle for more than 30 days shall be stabilized. 5. Measures shall be taken to control erosion within the project area. Sediment and runoff water shall be trapped and retained within the project area using approved measures. Wetland areas and surface water shall be protected from sediment. 6. Off-site surface water and runoff from undisturbed areas shall be diverted away from disturbed areas where feasible or carried without erosion through the project area. Integrity of downstream drainage systems shall be maintained. 7. Measures shall be taken to control the post-development peak rate of runoff so that it does not exceed pre-development runoff for the 2 years, 24-hour storm event and for additional storm event frequencies as specified in the design criteria of the Stormwater Management and Erosion and Sediment Control Handbook for Urban and Developing Areas in New Hampshire. 8. Priority should be given to preserving natural drainage systems, including perennial and intermittent streams, wetlands, swales, and drainage ditches for conveyance of runoff leaving the project area. 9. All temporary erosion and sediment control measures shall be removed after final site stabilization. Trapped sediment and other disturbed soil areas resulting from the removal of temporary measures shall be permanently stabilized within 30 days unless conditions dictate otherwise. 10. Naturally occurring streams, channels, and wetlands shall be used for conveyance of runoff, leaving the project area only after appropriate sedimentation control measures have been employed. Section B. Permanent stormwater management design criteria. The following standards shall be applied in planning for stormwater management and erosion control as related to long-term management and municipal water quality. 1. Under 1 acre of disturbance, activity within the urbanized UA will require a basic stormwater quality management system. At a minimum, all stormwater must pass through basic pretreatment beyond catch basin sumps prior to leaving the site. 2. Over 1 acre disturbance, activity within the UA requires a well-thought-out, systematic, permanent stormwater quality management system. Latest technology and most up-to-date performance data will be considered when selecting permanent control measures. As noted above, catch basin sumps alone are not considered a valid water control measure. Mechanical devices may be required to supplement any proposal. Maintenance programs and schedules will be required as part of the proposal. Off-site water quality control measures may require long-term escrow funds to cover future maintenance expenses. Sites with appropriate separation to the seasonal high groundwater table must also consider groundwater recharge. All groundwater recharge systems will require on-site test pit and percolation test data to be submitted as part of the review. Section B, outside the UA requires a basic, systematic, permanent stormwater quality management system. Catch basin sumps alone are not considered a valid water quality control measure. 3, adjacent to wetland buffers, any size disturbance. A, Any new project adjacent to the wetlands buffer will require permanent water quality control measures. B, projects involving redevelopment or expansion will be considered on a case-by-case basis. 4, municipal project. All municipal projects will also consider inclusion of water quality control measures. Section C, permanent stormwater management technical design criteria. 1, all measures in the plan shall meet as a minimum the best management practices set forth in the Stormwater Management and Erosion and Sediment Control Handbook for urban and developing areas in New Hampshire. Rockingham County Conservation District, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, Soil Conservation Service, now the Natural Resources Conservation Service. August 1992 is amended from time to time. 2, design of the proposed features must consider the following. A, existing and proposed methods of handling stormwater runoff so that there will be no increase in the amount of runoff that leaves the boundaries of the site. The planning board may permit an increase in off-site stormwater runoff on submission of a detailed downstream study and on the recommendation of the town. B, engineering calculations used to determine drainage requirements based upon 25-year storm frequency, 24-hour duration shall be provided if the project will significantly alter the existing drainage patterns due to such factors as the amount of new impervious surfaces, such as pavement and building areas, being proposed. Closed drainage features must be sized for the 10-year storm frequency. Culverts, major ditches, swales, and detention facilities must be sized for the 25-year storm frequency. E, if the project will affect drainage flow to an existing roadway, culvert, or if a detention or retention pond is proposed, a minimum of a 25-year storm shall be used to evaluate potential off-site effects. If a state-owned or maintained culvert is affected by the development, State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation guidelines shall be used for evaluation of the culvert. D, all temporary erosion and sediment control measures shall be moved after final site stabilization, trap sediment, and other disturbed soil areas resulting from the removal of temporary measures shall be permanently stabilized within 30 days. E, velocities of less than 10 feet per second are required prior to entering a sedimentation swale. The maximum design velocity within the swale shall be 1.0 feet per second during passage of the 10-year storm. F, flows of less than 10 cubic feet per second are required prior to entering a sedimentation swale. G, all slopes equal to or steeper than 2:1 adjacent to a public right-of-way must have special stabilization details provided with the submission. H, velocities of 10 feet per second or less are desirable within a closed drainage system. Higher velocities may be allowed provided special design criteria have been used. Section D, construction drawing supporting documents. The following shall be required in the final plan unless the project is deemed to have sufficiently minimal impact. 1, locus map showing property boundaries. 2, north arrow scale date. 3, property lines. 4, structures, roads, utilities, earth stockpiles, equipment storage, and plan for stump and debris removal. 5, the topographic contours at 2-foot intervals. 6, critical areas. 7, within the project area and within 200 feet of project boundary, surface waters, then wetlands and drainage patterns and watershed boundaries. 8, vegetation. 9, extent of 100-year floodplain boundaries if published or determined. 10, soils information for design purposes from a National Cooperative Soil Survey, NCSS. Soil series map or a high-intensity soil map of the site prepared in accordance with SSS NNE, special publication number 1. Highly erodible soil shall be determined by soil series. 11, easements existing and proposed. 12, areas of soil disturbance, including calculation of square footage disturbed. Third, I'm still rolling. I'll let you know when I'm not ready to tap out. 13, areas of cut and fill, including existing and proposed elevations. 14, locations of earth stockpiles, 15, locations of equipment storage and staging. 16, stump disposal. 17, highlighted areas of poorly and very poorly drained soils. 18, highlighted areas poorly and/or very poorly drained soils proposed to be filled. 19, locations, descriptions, details, and design calculations for all structural, non-structural, permanent, temporary erosion and sedimentation control measures and BMPs. 20, identification of all permanent control measures. 21, identification of permanent snow storage areas. 22, identification of snow management in areas during construction. 23, construction schedule. 24, earth movement schedule. 25, temporary additional detention and/or sediment control facilities may be designed to accommodate the storm most likely to occur during the anticipated duration of construction. Example, construction duration of 2 years requires a 2-year evaluation. 26, a proposed schedule for the inspection and maintenance for all measures. 27, identification of all permanent control measures and responsibility for continued maintenance. 28, controls must be established for other waste on construction sites such as demolition debris, chemicals, litter, concrete, truck waste, and sanitary waste. Section E, stormwater management report section including 1, design calculations for all temporary and permanent structural control BMP measures. 2, a proposed schedule and procedural details for the inspection and maintenance of all BMPs during and after construction. 3, identification of all permanent control measures and responsibility for continued maintenance. 4, drainage report with calculations showing volume, peak discharge, and velocity of present and future runoff for the 10-year, 24-hour storm event. 5, plan showing the entire drainage area affecting or being affected by the development of the site. Proposed lot boundaries and drainage areas shall be clearly shown on the plan. 6, the direction of flow of runoff through the use of arrows shall clearly be shown on the plan. 7, the location, elevation, and size of all existing and proposed catch basins, dry wells, drainage ditches, swales, retention basin, storm sewers shall be shown on the plan. 8, when detention structures are planned to reduce future condition peak discharge, the soil cover complex method shall be used to compute runoff volume, peak discharge for designing the structure. The design will conform to the criteria outlined for the types of structures given in the Stormwater Management and Erosion Sediment Control Handbook for urban and developing areas in New Hampshire. 9, copies of the pertinent state and federal permits. 10, an example of stormwater management plan table of contents follows. A, project overview. B, owner. C, address of development. D, location of the site. E, description of receiving waters. 5, nature and purpose of the land distributing activity. G, limits of disturbance. H, construction schedule. I, existing conditions summary. J, defined topography, drainage patterns, soils, ground cover, critical areas, adjacent areas, upstream areas, draining through the site, existing development, existing stormwater facilities, on and off-site utilities, construction limitations, buffers, wetlands, streams, sensitive areas, and other pertinent features. K, include an existing conditions plan drawing showing the above existing conditions and labeled per the narrative above. L, off-site analysis. M, describe the tributary area, include at least quarter-mile downstream, drainage channels, conveyance systems, and downstream receiving waters. N, review existing or potential problems resulting from the development, including, but not limited to, sedimentation, erosion, water quality issues, chemical spills. O, Demonstrate that the development of the site will not affect the downstream systems negatively. P, demonstrate adequate capacity of the downstream system to handle flow conditions after development. Q, is applicable, include an off-site drainage plan. The plan may be part of the existing conditions plan. R, special reports, studies, maintenance, information. S, as applicable, include test pit logs, forms, soil conditions data, and wetland delineation information. T, as applicable, including information regarding long-range maintenance of any closed drainage systems, detention, retention facilities, etc. U, demonstrate that slopes on the construction site are protected. V, demonstrate all stormwater inlets are protected and that all newly constructed outlets are armored. W, perimeter controls are established at the site. X, demonstrate construction site entrances and exits to prevent off-site tracking. Y, appendix, include copies of all tables, graphs, charts, test pit, and percolation test data used in any of the above calculations. Section F, responsibility for installation, construction. 1, the applicant and the applicant's engineer or technical representative shall schedule and attend the mandatory pre-construction meeting with the town at least 2 weeks prior to commencement of construction. 2 copies of the SWPPP if required. SWMP and associated construction documents and notice of intent, NOI, if required, must be provided at the time. All documents must bear the seal and signature of the registered professional engineer preparing the documents. Prior to commencement of construction, the code enforcement officer will confirm that the documents submitted meet the conditions of plan approval. The applicant shall bear financial responsibility for the installation, construction, inspection, and disposition of all stormwater management and erosion control measures required by the provisions of this ordinance. 3, the planning board shall require a bond or other security in an amount with the surety conditions satisfactory to the board, provided for the actual construction and installation of such measures within a period specified by the planning board and expressed in the bond or surety. 4, the town shall require the owner or his authorized agent to deposit in escrow with the town an amount of money sufficient to cover the cost for inspection and any professional assistance required for compliant site monitoring. 5, site development shall not begin before the stormwater management and erosion control plan receives approval from the planning board or their designated agent. Best management practices shall be installed as designed and scheduled as a condition of final approval of the plan. 6, commercial and industrial development and/or redevelopment. The applicant, owner, and owner's legally designated representative, if any, shall all hold responsibility for implementing the stormwater management and erosion control plan. 7, residential development and redevelopment. The applicant is responsible for implementing the stormwater management and erosion control plan. There are 2 ways for the applicant to be removed from the responsible party in the town's jurisdiction. A, the applicant completes the project in a satisfactory manner and files a notice of termination, NOT, with the EPA in accordance with the terms of federal requirements. B, the applicant passes legal responsibility of the plan to another competent party. In the case of a new subdivision where lots may be transferred to a different entity for construction of the building, it is the applicant's responsibility to ensure that the applicant has a legal basis to require compliance by the new entity. 8, individual homeowner development. Once the homeowner had taken control of a subdivided property, the homeowner bears the responsibility for compliance with the approved stormwater management and erosion control plan. If the homeowner is contracting building services to another person or entity, the homeowner may choose to pass legal responsibility of compliance to the contracted entity. If the responsibility is not passed, the homeowner remains a responsible party and must comply with the terms of the original plan. G, Section G, plan approval and review. 1, the planning board or their designated agent shall indicate approval of the stormwater management and erosion control plan is filed. If it complies with the requirements and objectives of this ordinance, if applicable, such approval shall be a component of subdivision or site plan approval, but shall not relieve the applicant of the need to comply with requirements relating to stormwater drainage systems design that may also be contained in other applicable subdivision and/or site plan regulations. 2, final approval shall be contingent upon collection of any required fees or escrow amounts related to technical review of any stormwater management and erosion control plan prepared under this ordinance. Section H, maintenance, inspection, and maintenance security. 1, a narrative description of ongoing construction and operational maintenance requirements for water quality measures required by stormwater management and erosion and sediment control plans after final planning board approval shall be recorded on the deed. And any accompanying development agreements or covenants for the property on which measures are located. The narrative shall be in the form of a typical site plan, management development agreement, or as otherwise set forth by the planning board. The description so prepared shall comply with the requirements of RSA 478:4 as detailed below. A, the registry of deeds shall not accept a deed or instrument for filing and recording unless it recites the following information. 1, the last mailing address of the grantee's name in the deed or instrument. 2, in the first sentence of the first description paragraph, the names of all municipalities in which the property is located. The name for each person signing the deed or instrument as a party to the transaction is printed or typewritten under the signature. B, all documents shall be suitable for reproduction as determined by the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds, which shall provide document standards as amended and adopted by the New Hampshire Registers of Deeds. The standards and any amendments thereto shall include a statement of their effective date and shall be posted in and distributed by all registries of deeds for at least 60 days prior to such effective date. C, in the event of any changes in registry procedure or requirements, RSA 478:4-A shall supersede the above requirements, and the applicant shall fulfill these requirements. 2, there shall further be a copy of the maintenance requirements on site during construction activity. During the time of construction, a lot and report must be submitted to the town twice each month, and within 48 hours of any storm event with greater than 1 inch of rainfall. This report shall detail all inspections, any actions taken per the construction stormwater management and erosion control plan, including the reasons for doing so, dates of action, and follow-up action required. After construction, this copy of the maintenance requirements shall be given to a responsible party either at the maintenance management company or in the homeowners association. This party will be responsible for preparing a yearly log and report to be submitted to the town no later than the close of business on the last business day in January. This report shall contain all the information required in the bi-weekly reports. 3, if the applicant, manager, or owner is unable to adequately provide required maintenance activities, the town may require additional escrow funding to be used by either the applicant or the town solely to repair, replace, and/or maintain the required measures. 4, all developments shall be required to submit annual inspection checklists as provided by the planning department to certify the proper maintenance of on-site drainage infrastructure and stormwater systems have been performed and are functioning properly. These checklists must be submitted by October 1st each year to the Town of Plastow Department of Building Safety. Amended 3-13, 2012 ATM, Article P-12-30. 5, if permission to inspect is denied by the landowner, the code enforcement officer or their designee shall secure an administrative inspection warrant from the district or superior court under RSA 595-B. Subsection 22019.6, operation and maintenance. Subsection 22019.6.1, design. Section 8, all stormwater BMP shall be designed in a manner to minimize the need for maintenance and reduce the chances of failure. Design guidelines are outlined in the most recent version of Stormwater Management and Erosion Sediment Control Handbook for urban and developing areas in New Hampshire.
Next page.
Thank you. Section B, stormwater easements and covenants shall be provided by the property owners for access, facility inspection and maintenance. Easements and covenants shall be filed with and recorded by the town of Plastow prior to the issuance of a permit. Section C, final design shall be approved by the town of Plastow. Subsection 220-19.6.2, routine maintenance. Section A, all stormwater BMPs shall be maintained according to the measures outlined in the most recent version of Stormwater Management and Erosion and Sediment Control Handbook for urban and developing areas in New Hampshire and as approved in the permit. Section B, the persons or organizations responsible for maintenance shall be designated in the plan. Options include 1, property owner, 2, homeowners association, provided that provisions for financing necessary maintenance are included in deed restrictions and/or contractual agreements. 3, town of Plastow. C, maintenance agreements shall specify responsibilities for financing maintenance. Subsection 220-19.6.3, non-routine maintenance. Non-routine maintenance includes maintenance activities that are expensive but infrequent, such as pond dredging or major repairs to stormwater structures. Section A, non-routine maintenance shall be performed on an as-needed basis based on information gathered during regular inspections. Section B, if non-routine maintenance activities are not completed in a timely manner or as specified in the approval plan, the town of Plastow may complete the necessary maintenance at the owner's operator's expense. Subsection 220-19.6.4, inspections. Section A, the persons or organizations responsible for maintenance shall inspect stormwater BMPs on a regular basis as outlined in the plan. Section B, authorized representatives of the town of Plastow may enter the site at reasonable times to conduct on-site inspections or routine maintenance. Section C, for BMPs maintained by the property owner or homeowners association, inspection and maintenance reports shall be filed with the town of Plastow as provided for in the plan. Section D, authorized representatives of the town of Plastow may conduct inspections to confirm the information in the reports filed under subsection C.
Okay.
Looks like that. No,
One more.
we have one more, page 27.
Yep. doing that.
Also to be deleted. Sample town of Plastow notice of violation. Dear property owner, you are hereby informed that based upon an inspection performed by the local administrator on date, your property does not comply with the requirements of Article 4, subsection 220-19. That includes construction, post-construction stormwater, and erosion control regulations, illicit discharge and connections or approved plans. You are hereby served written notice and instructed to correct the violations listed below. A copy of the inspection report, which details the nature of the violation at hand, is enclosed. A, actions or conditions which violate the requirements of this ordinance or plans approved under this ordinance. B, the minimum that needs to be done to correct the violations. C, the violations must be corrected by date. D, the property owner was forwarded a copy of this report on date. E, the original has been filed in the Department of Building Safety on date. F, a copy of the inspection report is attached. Yes, no. Sincerely, date, Plastow Code Enforcement Officer. And with that, I'll tell you, the elementary school teachers in reading must be proud of me.
Yeah.
Let's see, the only thing okay, right here. Proposed Article C-24-04, the voters' notes on what was just read. The revisions present in this amendment are based on the recommendations from the Rockingham Planning Commission, the Southeast Watershed Alliance Models, Stormwater Standards 2017, and were reviewed by engineer Steve B. Keach, principal engineer of Keach Nordstrom Associates. All recommendations for charges are in order to be compliant with the New Hampshire Municipal Separate Stormwater System MS4 requirements that were set by the United States Environmental Protection Agency.
Good job.
Job.
Wow.
Excellent. One question I just want to right now, is it true that they will have these booklets available? This is not going to be your handout to vote on.
There'll be a handout that they can pick up to
Right.
vote. So this won't be
This
all
will
written
not
up in
be
the ballot.
included in,
ballot,
that's
but
all I
there'll be-
wanted to know.
There will be a handout.
Okay. For those that are interested in reading it again. Yep.
It was a lot of fun the first time through.
Well, is it Z2404, right?
Yes.
So I move that the proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z2404 be posted to the warrant for March town meeting as recommended by the planning board.
Seconded.
Seconded by, all right, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, but was there any I should say, is there any discussion?
Anybody out there?
Discussion? No. Okay.
As long as you say don't reread it.
Yeah, as long as you don't say, what was that page number? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the next one up. Proposed Plastow zoning amendment, Z-24-05. Are you in favor of amendment number 5 as proposed by the Plastow Planning Board to the Plastow zoning ordinance, Article 5? Establishment of districts and district requirements by amending table 220-32M dash, in quotes, C3 dash commercial 3, end quotes. Section C, areas and dimensions is detailed below. Amend table 220-32M dot C1, areas and dimensions by changing the minimum lot size area from 80,000 square feet to 60,000 square feet. Amend table 220-32M dot C5, areas and dimensions by changing the maximum building size where a single business is to occupy a single building from 20,000 square feet to 15,000 square feet. Amend table 220-32M dot C6, areas and dimensions by changing the maximum building size where multiple businesses are to occupy a single building, 60,000 square feet to 45,000 square feet. Proposed Articles Z-24-05 Voters Note. The Plastow Planning Board wants to reduce the minimum allowed lot size and maximum building size by 25% to ensure that development is reflective of the purpose and intent of the Commercial 3 District, which is to limit the building size and to protect Plastow's village center, schools, and neighborhoods from the overwhelming impact of increased traffic and congestion.
Okay, any discussion?
All right, I move that the proposed Plastow zoning
Ask
amendment.
outside first, too. Was there any
Go ahead.
comments to be made from the public? No, okay, just want to be sure.
I move that the proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z-2405 be posted to the warrant for March town meeting as recommended by the planning board.
Okay, I'll second it.
I'll second.
Just said second, didn't I? Okay. Vote? Everybody? All in favor?
Aye.
No.
3 ayes, 1 no.
All right. So let's say, next one up. Proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z-24-06. Are you in favor of amendment number 6 as proposed by the Plastow Planning Board to the Plastow zoning ordinances, Article 5, dash establishment of districts and district regulations, Table 330-32M. C3 Commercial 3 by deleting vehicular brokerage office as permitted use in the district. Proposed Article Z-24-06 Voters Note. The proposal is to delete vehicular brokerage office as a permitted use in the C3 Commercial 3 zoning district. The Plastow zoning ordinance define a vehicular brokerage office as the portion of a structure devoted in whole or in part of the administrative functions related to new and or used motor vehicle sales with no retail or wholesale display of storage of motor vehicles. Retail or wholesale display and or storage of motor vehicles are specifically prohibited. In consultation with the New Hampshire Department of Safety, NHDOS dealer licensing. It is explained that they do not issue any kind of retail, wholesale dealer license that does not allow for at least one display space. Since motor vehicle sales will display parking is already not a permitted use in the C3 district, this brokerage office use can be eliminated to avoid any conflict with the NHDOS requirements. What it would do is it would replace subsection 220-2.1 paragraph B to read. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. I kept going to the next one.
Okay.
They're all blending together.
Okay, yeah, any discussion on this?
Oh. To be honest, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't remember seeing this last.
It was there.
What's that?
It was there.
I didn't.
Okay.
It's not one that we worked on.
Oh, okay.
It was in response to the New Hampshire Department of Safety dealer licensing changing their regulations.
Yep. Okay.
It could be kept, but it's not allowed regardless. So
Well, then we might as well not then. Okay, any other discussion? Anything from the audience? Nope.
I'm just curious. I'm looking at the minutes. I mean, where in the minutes do we indicate that we talked about that or referenced it?
I remember discussing something about too many sales, or the vehicles being too close. I remember that was discussed, but I didn't know it was furthered by.
Yeah, in the minutes, page 10, is this the right one? Where it says proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z-24-07. It mentions, deleting the vehicular brokerage office, which is this one. I made the motion, you seconded it.
Yep. Yeah, I just don't remember the final, I guess. I know it was brought up. I do remember discussing it. I just didn't know what happened in the end.
So it's a table.
Yeah, it was a table.
All right.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Okay, anybody ready for vote? Or any more questions?
Gonna make a motion.
Gonna make a motion in a second.
I know, yeah, but I just wanted to know if anybody.
I'm good.
No further? Okay, and nothing from outside? Okay. All right, make a motion.
I move the proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z-24-06 be posted to the warrant for March town meeting as recommended by the planning board.
Okay, I'll second it. Okay,
All those in favor?
all in favor? Yeah, all in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I remember that.
all right.
All right.
Now, okay, proposed zoning amendment Z-24-07. Are you in favor of amendment number 7 as proposed by the Plastow Planning Board to the Plastow zoning ordinance to modify Article 3, general provisions, subsection 220-2.1, site plan applicability as follows? Replace subsection 220-2.1, paragraph B to read, section B. any commercial, industrial change of use in multifamily 3 or more units. Residential uses, regardless of the zoning district they're located in, are required to include a site plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. Proposed Article Z-24-07 Voters Note. This amendment is to clarify what types of uses site plans are required for. And on this one, we got an email, letter, or whatever came in. And I'll read that into the, so we have that, so it's done. This was dated January 3rd, which was today. Comments on proposed 2024 zoning amendments. I am Daniel J. Kane, a resident of 64 Main Street in Plastow, New Hampshire, and the owner of Sweet Hill Farm LLC, located at 82 Newton Road, Plastow, New Hampshire, Sweet Hill Farm and/or the farm. I reviewed the proposed 2024 amendments to the Town of Plastow zoning ordinance, the ordinance, and have some observations. My comments are specifically limited to the proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z-24-07, subsection 220-2.1, site plan applicability. Admittedly, given the history of this particular article and its use against the farm, I remain on a heightened sense of alert. I am also concerned that the amount of staff and legal time spent on what was characterized as simply housekeeping bears no relation to the minor problem that was represented to fix. From the written and video record since its origination in 2018 on a per-word basis, this may be the most expensive ordinance article the town has ever written. In my view, this perpetual tinkering with this particular ordinance article has a proposed beyond housekeeping and beyond how it was originally represented. As you know, words matter, particularly when they are uttered by public officials, and more particularly when these terms are used in a zoning context. If we are using terms as they are defined within the ordinance, the New Hampshire RSA's, the state public code, and within standard American dictionaries, then we need to understand their clear and present meaning, as the meaning has a substantial impact on how people in our town can use their private property. In this context, the accuracy and precision of language matters as the ordinance is expressively permissive, meaning if the ordinance is silent on any use or activity, then it's not permitted. The converse is then also true. Individuals and/or boards tasking with enforcing ordinances cannot consider what the legislative body might have said, nor add words it did not see fit to include. I can personally attest that to correct a misinterpretation and/or misapplication of any provision within the ordinance takes years and costs tens of thousands of dollars to resolve. I can afford to do that, but many people in this town cannot. Who then speaks for them? If it's not you as the town's only duly elected land use board, then who? I believe it's illustrated to review the history of this particular article and its initially created article subsection 220-2.1. No existing site plan. Read. Subsection -2-1, site plan applicability. Any application for physical changes or changes of use to a lot that does not have an existing site plan of record that is on file with the town of Plastow and the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds must include a site plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. The reason for the above article is represented by the town's planning director, John Cashel, at the December 12, 2018 planning board meeting was simply to create standard language found in most ordinances, and it just happens to clarify that if you don't have a site plan on record and you are proposing new development on that particular site, you have to come and show us everything that is on there and everything that is proposed, period. This is a far cry from how it was used in the only instance I am aware as justification to ensnare a residential use property. If the true intent as represented to the planning board by Mr. Cashel was to make sure it captured non-residential use and multifamily use properties that had no site plan on file, it appears to be vague enough to not work. It was not intended, if the written and video records are accurate, to address the overall requirements for site plans, as that requirement is clear within the ordinance of the site plan review and subdivision regulations. It certainly did not expand the planning board's statutory authority over residential use properties. Upon amendment last year, Article subsection 220-2.1, site plan applicability, was reworked to currently read subsection 220-2.1, site plan applicability. Section A, any application for physical changes or changes of use to a lot that does not have an existing site plan approved by the planning board and that is on file with the town of Plastow and/or Rockingham County Registry of Deeds must include a site plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. Section B, any application for physical changes to a lot in the commercial, industrial, or multifamily residential districts must include a site plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. Section C, any application for a change of use or any application submitted as a planned residential development, PRD, or as an affordable housing for older persons district must include a site plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. As previously documented, this amended article has multiple problems, not at least which is that it does not clearly define its scope, limited to non-residential and multifamily uses. It attempted to regulate districts, not uses, and it used terms not otherwise defined within the ordinance. There was no source document and/or public discussion as to the genesis of this amendment and what pressing issue it was designed to correct. As near as I can tell, the only property it was ever applied to was Sweet Hill Farm, which was further borne out when the planning board staff acknowledged that part of the intent of the rework was to sort of respond to the then recent ZBA decision regarding the farm and partly to establish best practices to clear up a murky and gray article by setting in stone the change in use for commercial, industrial, multifamily, PRD, and affordable housing for older persons requirements when a site plan was required. As its February 1, 2023 meeting, planning board staff represented that the article as then written would require an applicant, if they were to propose any physical change or change of use for commercial, industrial, or residential property, that a site plan would be required. Given the provisions of RSA 674-43-1 in the town site plan regulations, this would then make the article unenforceable against residential use properties. We now arrive at the proposed Plastow zoning amendment, Z-24-07, which retains the wording of the current article but replaces paragraph B to read. Section A, any application for physical changes or changes of use to a lot that does not have an existing site plan approved by the planning board and that is on file with the town of Plastow and/or the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds must include a site plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. Now, this is section B. Any commercial, industrial change of use in multifamily 3 or more units. Residential uses, regardless of the zoning district they're located in, are required to include a site plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. Section C, any application for change of use or any application submitted as a planned residential development, PRD, or as an affordable housing for older persons district must include a site plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. Firstly, there's a typographical error as multifamily dwelling is 2 or more units versus 3. This rework still has problems as application, physical changes, commercial, industrial, and/or multifamily, 3 or more units. Residential uses are both unclear as to their meaning and they're not defined terms within the ordinance. Lot is defined term but is not used in the article as one. The nearest defined term to multifamily, 3 or more units, residential is multiple dwelling. which is defined within the ordinance as any dwelling containing more than 2 dwelling units. This also mirrors the definition of multifamily dwelling units contained in RSA 674:43(1). Change of use is defined within the ordinance as change of use. A change of use occurs for an existing permitted use in the commercial C1, C2, industrial, industrial 1, industrial 2, or integrated commercial residential ICR district is proposed to be changed to another permitted use. Such use shall be determined as permitted by the zoning officer. If the zoning officer determines that the proposed change of use is more intense or significantly different than the existing use, the proposed use shall require site plan approval by the planning board prior to the issuance of any permits. When you insert that definition into the proposed paragraph B rewrite, it makes paragraph B indecipherable and does not even fit within the context of the paragraph, as it does not define what a change of use is. It just tells you who can make the determination. It also only applies to certain districts, one of which is also residential. In my view, given the stated desire to clarify the need for a site plan, there appears to be no valid reason for this definition to be included in this article. Interestingly, this definition of change of use was added from the 2020 town warrant, replacing an existing definition. Change of use. Change of use is marked by an alteration, modification, transformation, or substitution to either structural elements or the type of activity in an existing developed property. In the case of commercial and industrial properties, a new site plan must be reviewed and/or approved before a certificate of occupancy can be issued following such change of use to take place and signaling its compliance with all applicable town requirements. The specific rationale for this change was included in the October 2nd, 2019 Planning Board minutes. Reference, no planning board reference cleanup. So it appears to have been intended to work in tandem with 220-2.1, introduced the year before. From what I can see in the record, this does not appear to have been a planning board member initiated change. I am not here to pick apart so-called scrivener's errors, but this article from the beginning has either not used terms that are defined in the ordinance or created terms that are not otherwise defined within the ordinance. A fair question is why. My personal view is that this entire article is a bazooka aimed at an ant. That being said, if the planning board's intent is to establish best practices to clarify subsection 220-2.1 site plan applicability, restore its original stated intent, clarify when a site plan is required, and conform to RSA 674-43(1) and the Town of Plastow Site Plan Regulations 230-2, Section A1, then perhaps something like the following could work. Changes highlighted in red. Subsection 220-2.1 Site Plan Applicability. Section A. Any application submitted to the planning board for the development, alteration, expansion, and/or change of use to a non-residential use lot and/or multiple dwelling lot that does not have an existing site plan and/or subdivision plan approved by the planning board that is on file with the Town of Plastow and/or the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds. It must include a site plan and/or subdivision plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. This is for current non-residential, residential, and multifamily use lots that do not have a site plan on file. Section B. Any application submitted to the planning board for the development, alteration, expansion, or change of use involving non-residential use and/or multifamily dwelling use, structures containing more than 2 dwelling units, must include a site plan or subdivision plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. This captures all non-residential and multifamily uses. Section C. Any application submitted to the planning board as a planned residential development, PRD, under the provisions of the Access Management Overlay District and/or under the provisions of the Affordable Housing for Older Persons District must include a site plan and/or subdivision plan. in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. This captures the PRD and the so-called overlay districts. Amendment Z-24-07, Voters Guide Explanation. This amendment is to correct the language in the existing ordinance and further clarify when a site plan is required for non-residential and/or multifamily uses. While I certainly have a viewpoint, it is not my intent to tell people how to vote on one issue or another. I do, however, believe that we have here is a tale that has grown in the telling. And that this article, along with its sister change of use, is from the get-go designed for a purpose materially different than how it was represented. From my perspective, I want to protect the investment I have made and will continue to make to the private properties I own in this town, and I want to have comfort that the interests of many do not trample on the rights of the few or the one. I do not believe I am alone in this desire. Sincerely, Daniel J. Keynes.
Okay.
Hope I read that right.
All right, first, is there any discussion with the board?
Just quite Victoria. Well,
Oh, you want a response from me?
thoughts,
Okay.
reflections, and perhaps some analysis.
Yes. I'll go in order as best as I understood this. Firstly, there's a typographical error as multifamily dwelling is 2 or more units versus 3. Incorrect. RSA 674, section 43-1, powers to review site plans was referenced in this note. I'm going to read it to you word for word. This is the first part of it. A municipality having adopted a zoning ordinance as provided in RSA 674-16, and where the planning board has adopted subdivision regulations as provided in RSA 674-36, may, by ordinance or resolution, further authorize the planning board to require preliminary review of site plans and to review and approve or disapprove site plans for the development or change or expansion of use of tracts for non-residential uses or for multi-family dwelling units, which are defined as any structures containing more than 2 dwelling units, whether or not such development includes a subdivision or re-subdivision of the site. So when we say multifamily, in quotations, 3 or more units, it's the same thing as saying more than 2 units.
So it has to at least be 3.
Yeah, so more than 2 is 3 or more.
3 or more.
It's the same thing. The other part, the rework still has its problem, ... all of the commercial, industrial, and or multifamily residential uses are both unclear as to their meaning and are not defined terms within the ordinance. The Plastow zoning ordinance doesn't need to define every term. We would use whatever is referenced within the RSA. We don't define every single word within the zoning ordinance, so I don't think it's necessary. And then on the next page, the paragraph that says when you insert that definition into the proposed paragraph B, rewrite, ... It also only applies to certain districts, one of which is also residential. I didn't get that. It says change of use occurs when an existing permitted use in the commercial, C1, C2, industrial 1, industrial 2, or integrated commercial residential. So maybe that's why you were thinking residential districts is proposed to be changed to another permitted use. Just residential districts are not included in that, just the integrated commercial residential. And I do believe that the original issue with this whole ordinance was Part A. But Part A doesn't exist on its own. It exists in conjunction with all three pieces, A, B, and C. So we're only changing B. We've only proposed to change B. Any commercial, industrial, change of use, and multifamily residential uses, regardless of the zoning district they're located in, are required to include a site plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations. I hope that addresses your concerns. Let me know if you have any more questions.
It's not on the board, but I think we need some out here on the audience, please. If there's any comments, please, you're welcome to make them.
Yep.
Yep.
Please.
Right up.
I'm going to be very brief since it took so long to read that. The issue for me on this one, it's still murky and gray. I'm sorry, it's still not clear. If the idea is to make, it crystal clear in the ordinance that, hey, a site plan's required when you don't have one, and you're going to be a non-residential or multifamily. And I use multifamily as it was used in the zoning ordinance. To me, and as I said in my letter, precision matters, accuracy matters. And I think if we're going to use terms, because we use them all throughout the zoning ordinance, we just read 20 pages
Right.
of a definition in terms where the terms are specifically defined. Why can't we define what we mean? And how am I as a layperson going to decide what you actually mean when if I have to look at, 5 different places for a defined term? I should be able to look at the zoning ordinance. It should be clear. The intent of this ordinance was something different when it started off. It has been applied to me inappropriately, my argument is, and so I'm sensitive to it, and I'm sensitive to being more specific. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have it, because I don't feel that way. I believe you probably should. There's enough, I think, murkiness to it to have it. I just don't think the way it's drafted accomplishes that. And that's my point.
I had sent a memo out to the planning board, and we did talk about this a couple of times, about how we were going to edit this site plan review requirements. And yeah, I do agree. It's a little bit murky. It's definitely better than it was. I decided not to die on that hill.
I mean, to be honest.
So this was a step in the right direction, and I do want to revisit and redo the whole entire thing for next year.
I mean, to be honest, I know that, your initial proposal, the other people that had input subsequent to that, I mean, I thought yours was a lot crisper and
Right.
on point.
Yeah, but it was a big change, and we were doing a lot of big changes this year, and I understand how it didn't, take the front and center.
Yeah. And to be honest, I mean, I think, from the very beginning, when what this proposed change is proposing to replace, I think when I first came on the board, I was wanting to see sort of the narrative history about what was the genesis of a change, what the thought process was, who proposed it. And to be honest, I haven't seen that. So, I mean, I guess I look at it as a good attempt to try to fix something, but it kind of falls short on what we asked for. So.
Yeah, that was my main objection to it, was that it's still misunderstood, and it's not clear. And I know we need to do a little more better writing of it, and we should look into it more. The way it is written right now, it is not clear. I still don't feel it is clear, and therefore I I can't be in back of it.
Okay. So maybe for next year, you can look at what I wrote. I sent you 2 different examples of full ordinance changes and could make notes on those.
I think-
So
I
there's
think
no
that'd be great.
chance to make that change now.
It would be significant changes, so it would require another public hearing if you want to have another meeting.
And then it would have to be reviewed
Yeah, it will.
and all that.
Your legal counsel has reviewed this and has approved it.
As it's printed, not if you made the change, you'd have to do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so
Do we have the time? We don't have the time to do this?
I think you're up against it now. We gotta have a public hearing too.
So, the last day to hold final public hearings on proposed zoning amendments is Monday, January 29th.
But it's actually before that, right? Because the 29th is the date everything gets published too, I think, right? The warrant article gets published.
This is what the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs says for the zoning amendment calendar. And then January 18th is the last day to post and publish notice for the
Somewhere
last
I
hearing.
had that the 29th from, was the last day the articles can get published, but that's not my wheelhouse.
This one here, legal's reviewed this one.
Yeah, I know, right.
So are we, when we were voting to have this put on
Correct.
the
This
warrant?
one,
Right.
this
So I
one.
mean, if we were to say that,
No,
you know, this,
right.
If you don't approve this one, then it will just stay the way that it is, referencing a multifamily district that does not exist.
I mean, I'd like to just do it right instead of,
Right,
you know,
me too.
having, you know,
So you don't think there's any chance that we could get that in?
I mean, you're talking, it's tight. Today's the 3rd.
I know.
Oh.
And there is a holiday, and there is one more day off this week too, right? We have another holiday. What are your thoughts? Scott?
I mean, if the rationale was to correct something that was deficient, then I don't see any need to rush to get something out there.
Yeah, you just gotta rush it,
Still
to try to get it
questionable.
through.
What's that?
You're gonna rush it to try to get it through to,
Yeah, I mean, why not be deliberative and, you know, right?
I just don't like to see it going out as it is right now. That's my point. Is that better than what was originally in there?
What's originally in is null and void. It's
Yeah,
just,
right.
it's unenforceable. Right?
I mean,
Right.
so this is better. I mean, it's multifamily, 3 or more units. That's the main thing.
I mean, it's better, but
I just don't agree with it.
So you
Oh,
this.
any other comments from in the audience there, too?
So if you're saying what we have in there now is unenforceable, this at least could be, correct?
Currently, the proposed zoning is enforceable, but it's not perfect.
But if it doesn't get passed, if it's, voted down anyway,
If it gets voted down, it gets voted down. That's up to the voters.
I don't know.
I'm not, you know, given the fact that, you know, I mean, I wanted something from the beginning that was terms
Right,
of
it was different, right.
narrative wise, what we're doing, what the purpose of it is, what was the genesis of it. I was never really confident, you know, when it initially came up as being just a matter of spontaneous housekeeping.
Right,
So,
that's what it was listed
and
as.
if we're just sort of making something that's less worse, then perhaps we just don't move forward with it.
Is it making it worse than what's already there?
It's definitely not making it worse. It's making it better.
It's the unintended, I think.
Right.
That's what I'm worried about. I mean, where one is not enforceable, like if you were to act upon it, you would be able to say that it's not properly crafted. Whereas the other one is, well, it's properly crafted, but, you know, so it's the unintended consequences that I think that are what we're talking
Waiting
about
a
here.
year. Right.
So, Where one isn't going to be able to do anything, the other could conceivably have unintended consequences that, why do harm when we don't need to?
What do we think's unintended?
Well, I don't know what the unintended is. That's the definition of definition of it, right?
You don't know.
Well, at least if it's better than what is there, and then we work on to possibly even still change it even more. Give it a shot. Those are my thoughts.
But then what's there is going to be used for this year until next March.
I'm probably, I'm not inclined to vote, to advance it.
No.
I mean, that's my, for the reasons that I've stated.
Chuck?
So do you think we should leave it the way it is now and then
I
bring it up
say,
again
I
next year?
don't think it should, I don't think I don't think we should advance this
This,
because
right.
of the fact that there might be
Originally.
something unintended.
Right.
All right, and it would be enforceable.
Right,
All right, so whereas the other one is just not enforceable, it's just,
right. That's how.
so we should do it right.
And then do it right next year.
And
I disagree, but that's okay. You don't have to follow my advisement.
disagree as well.
Disagree too, because, I mean, we talked about this at the hearing the other last 2 weeks ago, and we all approved it 5-0. And now we're all changing our mind on it because
I didn't approve this written one, this one now. I didn't approve that.
At the last
well,
meeting.
I mean, what we
Number
did
8.
is we
I mean, you can always change your mind. That's America.
yeah,
yeah, we can always change your mind.
no, what we actually did was to put it forward for a public hearing to then discuss whether or not we're going to advance it to the
Right,
deliberative session.
Exactly, that was not.
Right, so here we are.
Discuss it.
There seems to be something defective about it.
Yeah,
And-
just
I didn't think
take
was
it out,
going-
send it to the voters to see what the voters say.
Exactly.
Voting for, are we voting for what you're telling us, is it gonna be correct?
It is correct. It's been reviewed by legal counsel.
Well, that doesn't mean it's correct. Well, you're saying, somebody was saying it's not correct.
Well, let me point out, last year it was written by legal counsel.
That is a fair point. I was not here for that.
No, you weren't.
That is correct.
That was
That is
written
correct.
by legal counsel. So, I think, with no disrespect to any legal counsel, but, that's not dispositive as to the fact whether it's correct or not.
Right.
Again, I think it's indecipherable once you put that change of use thing in there. It doesn't even fit into the context. You're talking about
actually
specific
talking about.
uses.
Yep.
And then that kind of jumps in there. I don't think it makes it clear. I don't think the voters are going to think it's clear.
They aren't going to understand it.
Yeah.
Seriously,
And
that's what it
Well,
Again,
is.
they're going
my-
to be looking to us to say that, we're comfortable with it.
Right,
And
I'm not.
But you can always vote on it, and it could be 1-3, 2-2, 3-1, whatever, right?
Do we remember what it says now? Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, let's go for it. I've read so much tonight.
So
My turn now.
A and C are completely no changes. B, any application for physical changes to a lot in the commercial, industrial, or multifamily residential districts must include a site plan in the application that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations.
So currently, it's,
So this is going by districts, one of which does not even exist, and this is going by uses, commercial, industrial, change of use, multifamily.
change of use is not a use, though. That's what's troubling me. And when you look at that definition,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. It doesn't fit there. And I'm not saying you want to put it someplace else and make it clear, but it doesn't fit in that definition, in that section B.
It needs to be clearer. So it's whether we accept what we already have and change it for next year, or do we keep?
maybe it's just me, but I think this is clearer than what's currently there. That's me. Doesn't mean you have
Well,
to
it
agree
is,
with me.
it
Nobody
is,
has
it
to
is
agree with me.
clearer.
Yeah, it's a little clearer, but it's still doing the same thing. It's not addressing the problem. It's not addressing the definition,
It's a little clearer, it's still
not addressing.
words, it's a word salad that you don't know. So what, because it's clearer in the context that you guys read.
Better doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
I appreciate the fact that you're working towards
Yeah, to
getting
get it
done.
Right.
And I appreciate the fact that it's clearer, but it doesn't, we're not there, right?
Do we want to have them, who it is that's talking and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm
Your
sorry.
name, where you live, and if you come up to a microphone.
He needs to come to the mic.
Yeah, if you come to the microphone, it'll be picked up. I mean, right now, it's not going to be picked up. It'll just be like noise in the background.
Courtney Cronin, I live on Rustic Lane. I've been in Plastow since the 70s. Not an overly intelligent man, but my question is if I'm going to buy a cow, I want to get a cow. And I appreciate everything that you all do. I was on the TYSL soccer league for almost 20 years. And I know that what your efforts are very good. But clearer doesn't make it right. And if I don't understand what I'm reading, then I'm afraid I might vote the wrong way. Okay? And again, clear is good, but I don't think you're there. One humble man's opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all 5 people showing up. We should have more here. That's right. It's tough to get Bob to come out.
Trust me, you come in time.
I know you're gonna be mad at me. Audrey Sakano, 64 Main Street. I agree with Courtney, what he just said. And look, we've all been here before, and I'm not a whiz on any of this. And I don't plan to be. Dan does that for both of us and a few other people. But if it's confusing for a layman, and I am a layman, so why would we vote on it if you can't tell me what it means exactly? It's not, it's somewhat clearer, but it's not crystal clear. And I think that's deceiving. I think that it's misleading, and that's not the intent. I get it. But because it's somewhat better doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do.
So you'd rather, I'm just trying to ask the question.
Sure.
So you'd rather it stay less clear than become more clear?
I don't think either one of them are clear, to be
But
quite
that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
right, and I
So why make
understand
the
that.
mistake twice?
Right.
But if
Why
you're
make the
making,
mistake twice?
the way if we're making it,
So what happens to me if I do something and I come to this, to the boards and I say I want to do this, and it's a change of use in whatever that is, say it's minor, and you guys say no because of, well, where is that? Where's my definition of what my change of use is? What is that? What does that mean? So I hear what you're saying, that the previous one wasn't great, but aren't they kind of the same right now in the sense that neither one of them are clear? So why change it? What's that saying for a sower? Measure twice, cut once, or whatever it is. It just doesn't make
I agree with
sense.
that.
Victoria, you have an opinion?
I had multiple opinions.
What's happening?
I had multiple opinions.
And can I just ask one more thing before you give your opinion? If Victoria sent out stuff that was supposed to be read and commented on and wasn't, Is that not part of the issue of some of the clarity? And look, I know you guys are all volunteers, and I appreciate what you do, because I wouldn't do it. But does it not take precedent at some point in time that we get some clarity for our town people?
Victoria did have it right.
Yeah, it's this particular question. I mean, again, this is about 2 years going, right? What we were looking at originally to clarify what's been deemed as not really enforceable because it's defective, right? You know, so if we're saying that we want to correct something that's defective, all right, my concern is the unintended consequences. So it should be clear, right? And I think if it isn't clear, then we should err on the side of caution and just not move forward on it. And the unintended consequences are that something could cost people money, right? You know, and they, you know, to have it adjudicated, clarified, responded to. So if there's ambiguity equals time, effort, money. And, you know, in that sense, I look at that we have a fiduciary responsibility not to foist that upon people. Yeah. So if there's a question and if there's a reasonable question, then we shouldn't move forward on that.
Right.
That's my position.
No, I've said what I had to say, so thank you.
No, thank you. I also, when you're trying to fix something, anything, and it's only halfway done, the voters are the people you say, oh, let the voters vote for it. They're the ones that we're supposed to be helping to explain what the real rule is or what we're doing for a change. And if we don't agree now with that change, and we see that point now, why are we giving it to the voters? I just don't understand why it's going forward now. That is not going to be explained to the voters at all. They are not going to explain what we just went through.
It's going forward because the Plastow Planning Board wanted it to.
I don't remember having a whole vote of 5 for that. I do not.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of a public hearing, right?
Yeah.
We've maybe uncovered something that's, you know, that might give us pause. And now we're at the point where if we're going to exercise pause, now's the
I
time.
just don't think the voters are going to.
Are there any minimal changes that we can make that do not require a full
Go
second?
through everything again.
Yeah.
To kind of put it quickly.
I mean, isn't there, in what you were writing, Victoria, was there any way that we can add to what's here now to make it clearer than what you were stating?
No.
There isn't.
No.
Okay.
The
So that's-
ones that I sent out,
No.
I sent October, November, December, January, I believe. And they're long.
It's,
Okay. Well, I can't present this in rights to the voters. It's just not fair. All right. And I see it a lot clearer now. You're right. I see it a lot clearer now. Yep.
And Bill, you may know this. So Scribner's errors, you know, are those permitted to be changed without going through a full?
I don't know. Do you know?
What's the definition of a Scribner's error?
It's like a mistake, you know, it's an unintended consequence.
Yeah, if there's small mistakes, again, with the murkiness, and there's that, oh, does it need another public hearing and does it not? If you're changing the,
Here's
Yeah,
one
that's a
change
fine
that I
line.
think would
Let's go for it.
get you there, is eliminate change of use as a defined term. You've got industrial, you've got commercial, you've got the residential, that's 3 or more, however
Yeah, that's a big change. And change of use does require site plan review.
It's already in there, though.
It is in there for PRDs and affordable housing.
Change it to, then if you want to keep it in there, it needs to go, because you include it as on a pier with industrial, commercial, multifamily, residential. Because of the way you string that sentence together, it's on a pier with them, and it's not on a pier with them. It's not the same. You could either move it.
The application for a change of use or any application submitted as a planned residential development.
Because you have changes of use up in A, which takes care of lots, if you will, parcels that don't have an existing site plan on file. Any commercial, industrial, multifamily, residential use, regardless of the use they're located in, are required to include a site plan. That takes care of everything. If you eliminate change of use, it doesn't change that paragraph.
Or what if we move it and it's commas? So any commercial, industrial, and multifamily, 3 or more units, residential uses, regardless of the zoning district they're located in, are required to include a site plan in the application,
That would
as
work.
well as change of use that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review. And so it's moving it away from it, but it's still included in the sentence, which is a small change.
No, it
No, I
could.
get what you're saying. I think that could work.
Just
It
moving
could
it
if
somewhere.
you use it not as a defined term. I think that makes the whole thing murky.
Right.
What do you mean use it as defined term?
Well, you're using it here as a defined term. You don't use it in paragraph A as a defined term, nor do you use it in paragraph C as a defined term.
So you're meaning defined term
Just don't
and
capitalize it,
yeah.
because it's different when you capitalize it. That's a thought.
Yeah, no.
I'm going to leave my paperwork here, so when I come back,
I know you're not going far.
I'm not. Hopefully I can read as well as you did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a thought.
I know what you're talking about. I don't
With that.
the legal ramifications of changing the
Scribner
capitalization
versus
of change in use. I do not feel confident.
No, I don't either.
That it would,
I would move it in the sentence and keep it
Right, in the
capitalized.
But it's
Do that?
still inconsistent. You use it,
Oh.
you use it lowercase in 2 places, and then you use it uppercase.
I know, but we're just talking about B right now. Unfortunately.
But it's still in it.
Well, if we can't, under the guise of saying it's a Scribner's error or just make it so that it's not a defined term,
Yeah, can't
then
rewrite
then
it.
I'm not, I'm on board with not wanting to have unintended consequences from something that we're saying is
I don't think the voters. are gonna
ambiguous.
understand.
The only change I would feel comfortable doing is taking change of use out of the first line and putting it elsewhere in the same sentence.
one more time, what was the,
Take it out of,
no, I know, just read it.
Any commercial, industrial, and multifamily, 3 or more units, residential uses, regardless of the zoning district they're located in, are required to include a site plan in the application, as well as change of use that conforms to the Plastow zoning ordinance and all site plan review and subdivision regulations.
It's really saying the same thing.
No, I think moving it does help.
No, doesn't change it at all.
yep.
Maybe helps a little. in my view. The problem with that definition is it does include a residential district in the definition. The integrated commercial, the ICR is both residential and commercial. It's in its definition. I don't think you escape that.
Well, there's multiple uses allowed in the ICR district. You can have a residential property or
But
commercial.
it's the only district in town that's specifically defines residential use and specifically defines commercial use. Every other district, the uses are permitted. It's a big blob of uses. It's the only district where you specifically define a use as a residential use. It's in the terminology.
So you're afraid that if someone has a commercial business and property in ICR and they want to convert it to residential, that
No,
they'll
I'm-
need a site plan review?
I'm concerned that as an owner of a residential use property in the ICR, this just tries to do what the first iteration of this tried to do, you know? I'm specifically concerned about my property. And I think, given my experience where things that have been imprecise and inaccurate have caused me some pain and suffering, I'd like to avoid that if I can. And I find if things are more precise, I understand them better, and I understand what the rules are. I don't have to go figure out what someone's going to interpret the rules. So that's my
Yeah.
concern.
So you feel more comfortable with
One interpretation.
keeping it exactly how it is and not
I
changing
don't,
it?
it's unenforced, it's not hurting anyone.
Because it resorts back to the RSAs,
Yeah.
the way that it is currently written.
So. Again, I don't think it's, I don't have it's not bad, it's not nefarious. I just think it can be better.
Yeah. No, good points all around.
So the way it's currently written, the RSA's would govern it, right?
The way that, yep, yeah.
As long as you have something that governs it, right? And it's
Yeah.
your overall, give me your overall opinion.
Can it be done, period? Let's put it that way, even if we work on it for next year. Can it be done?
Can what be done?
Have the wording that should be the correct way, so it's understandable to everybody.
That's too big of a change. We'd have to have another meeting. But if we do the small change that I proposed, that's okay. But I don't know about the definition part of it. I totally understand what you're saying.
Yep.
That does have a consequence.
So if we left it the way it is now and worked on it for next year, that's actually a better scenario than,
Less invasive.
I think that the way that we have it proposed to be changed has more strength against litigation than it currently does. Although not perfect.
I'm afraid the unintended side of it is I don't see the necessity to move forward with something that could potentially have unintended consequences. And
right?
that's
My opinion is I'd move forward with it where it strengthens it. And then you work on it again. Continue to work on it. And we can even maybe take a shot that we can somehow get it done before the end of the month. But it's America, that's why everybody has a vote.
well, we're going to vote then.
Yes, take a vote.
Do you want to vote with the proposed change, moving change of use farther down in the sentence, or just send it through as is?
If we move it further on down the sentence, will it have to go back through legal to be looked at?
I do believe so.
Which we don't know how long then that would still mean another hearing, correct? Public hearing.
No, it wouldn't be another hearing.
It wouldn't be another hearing.
If legal,
If legal okays it, then we're good. Is that what you're saying?
yeah. But legal has okayed it the way it is.
I know that they have.
But I also understand the concerns.
Yeah, I don't see the necessity to move forward with it. I mean, someone can explain that to me, that like, we need this revised language immediately, or else like all sorts of bad things are going to happen.
Well, I mean,
But if it's just saying that, you know, we need this to correct something that doesn't work, okay,
I mean,
well,
I'm all for strengthening something.
Against litigation.
no, then I think we should make it better. We should make it correct, not something that's going to require somebody to have to spend their own money to
Would
litigate.
you state your name? No, you need to do it into the mic, please.
Bob Boozy, 14 Rustic Lane. I think it's confusing for the people in town. I think it's, like, if I wanted to put a shed on my property, to me, it's saying that I have to get a site plan. I think
No,
that's where it's
No.
gonna, I know there's other, but I think when people read this, I
Read
think
it,
that's
they
what
think it.
they're reacting to. So like, if I want to put a pool, or if I want to change the, put a shed or do something with my property, they're saying, do I need a site plan or don't I need a site plan? And if you need a site plan, it's very costly. I think that's where it's confusing to the
Yeah, it is.
people who don't understand all the
I
big words
understand
and
that.
everything that's going on. So that's where I think, that's where I'm coming from. I think it's, that whole residential use is, you know, I know it's just a paragraph of the article, but I think that's what people are gonna read it and they're gonna say,
That's what they're going with that.
to me, then if I have to do something to my property, do I have to put a site plan? Because I don't think, you're not required as a residential use to have a site plan. I think that's where some people might be getting a little confused.
But if you go down and you're gonna do a shed, garage, or whatever, you go down to the building inspector and you ask him, do I need a site plan for something like a pool or whatever? And he says no, then you understand it right there. But if you're
Right,
doing more,
but
if you're doing more physical stuff,
I'm talking as a voting, to read this
Right.
and to vote on it. I understand if you go down, you can be, but if
Right.
I was to look at this and not know.
well, if I was to look at this, I'd say, well, I'm gonna go ask the bill inspector, or I'm gonna go ask somebody and see what it is.
Right, but you should know that before you're voting on the question, I think. I think the question should tell you that in some form. I think, like I said, I think that's where it gets a little confusing to people.
I think as a second draft or a third draft, this is a great improvement over
Well,
what
for
was there.
residential, it says what, multiple.
But in
family,
terms of like, let's submit it for publication.
Right.
No, absolutely not. Right, so
Or
I
two
think this is
developers.
better. It could be tweaked a little bit.
Yes,
And,
it definitely is better than
and,
it was, but it's not,
but in terms of
Be
not
understood to
wanting,
the
you know,
voter
doing
either.
the equivalent of the Hippocratic oath of do no harm,
right.
I would say that, you know, stay your hand and, you know, go through one more edit session.
Well, Victoria, correct me if I'm wrong, where it's talking about in this here, it says multifamily, 3 or more units, residential units, right? So it's really, you'd have to have 3 or more units.
Mhm.
That's what it's saying for the site plan.
Yeah.
So 3 or more units. A residential house only has 1 unit, just the house, not 3 or more.
Right. I get that, but I think where like you said, it's residential in bold text. you
Right,
know.
but
I just think it's a little confusing.
The residential says it's the multifamily, 3 or more units, residential uses.
Yeah,
So that's the residential use. It's the multifamily, 3 or more units.
this was.
We could put the 3 or more units after the word residential, if that's
What
confusing.
if you did 3 or more units in a residential area, as opposed to just residential uses?
Well, the residential
What says
uses.
multifamily?
Yeah, it says multifamily residential uses, which is 3 or more units.
Right,
Because that's all within that one paragraph, the parentheses.
right. I get that, but like I said, I just think the residential uses is just confusing to people.
I don't know, it's not how I read it, but
No,
everybody can read it different ways,
I
right?
think that's different. I think that's the problem.
I get that, but when
Well,
you,
that's
the problem.
to me, when
Nobody
it says
can
in
interpret
multifamily
Right.
residential use, so it's multifamily residential uses. It's not multifamily, comma, residential uses. It's multifamily residential uses.
Bill, to your
That's my
point.
opinion.
Well, to your point, if you're saying that there's multiple ways of reading it,
Right.
now, once it becomes enforceable, there's going to be a canonical way
Yeah.
in which it's being read, and it's going to be the person saying, enforcing it. So if there's ambiguity and somebody chooses something in an ambiguous interpretation, that now costs somebody money, it costs them time and effort. And if they don't have money, then they're on the receiving end of not being able to appeal it.
My opinion is, I think it makes clear, that's my opinion.
Oh,
Everybody has your own, you have your opinion, I have my
I do.
opinion. That's America, right? That's
and
America.
I think we should be clear, and we should not
Be
and we
clear
should
to
not do
voters.
something that
That's
can
my
be
concern the
it,
most.
it
Voters
shouldn't
have
cause
to
harm.
understand what they're voting for. It's one reason I got on the planning board, because there were just so many times when you would have to read, and you try to understand what they were trying to pass or to change. And it never made any sense until something happened, and then it was the wrong thing to vote for. But you don't know until it's too late, if you don't understand what you're going through in this application. That's what I want to prevent.
Right, so
So you want to leave something that's less strong than more strong.
I want to leave something the way it is right now because we didn't correct it.
Right, but this is making it stronger than what is currently there.
Well, that's an opinion.
Right, that's my opinion, you have your opinion.
Right.
In America, that's what it makes
Yeah.
America.
it's as stronger is not better. Stronger can be worse in the sense that it's an unintended consequence. So,
It
Once
can be.
again, your opinion.
well, it's
No, it's right.
I think it's more than an opinion.
No, well,
than
that's,
an unintended
well,
consequence. If you, I think it's prudent.
I'm
It's a
just-
definition of prudence.
well-
You don't do something that you
Once
you
again,
know
you-
that it might be unintended.
Richard, you have your opinion, I have my opinion, that's all I'm saying.
Then let's vote on it.
Let's vote on it then.
With no changes?
No changes.
Unless you want to make that one change that,
No,
I don't.
nothing.
No, this was supposed to be
a complete
this
change.
was supposed to be housekeeping to correct something. All right.
Right.
So that it's obviously more than housekeeping. All right. We're 2 years into it.
Right.
And we're seem to be very strident to advance it. All right. That's not housekeeping. It's not striking a this or adding, an indefinite article here or there or something like
Right.
that, or talking about
Changing
right,
scribblers.
I move that proposed zoning, Plastow zoning amendment Z-24-07 be posted to the warrant for March town meeting as recommended by the planning board.
I'll second.
On the discussion portion of things. Well, no, we have to vote, then we can discuss, right?
No, you
There
discussed
was
that.
just a motion and a second.
Disgusting now,
All
so.
right. Well, what happens if you have a tie vote?
Then it goes on the ballot, 2-2,
2-2?
2-2. That's,
There isn't any rules on tie?
It's going on the ballot regardless.
it's
right.
go-
You wanted
it's
to
go-
make
it's
some
go- it's
small
going on the ballot.
tweaks to make it a little bit better.
I don't see why anyone's hot to advance something that they admittedly say is ambiguous. I don't, and we've had, 2 years of
Of trying to change it to.
it was advertised as being, a housekeeping change, and now it's not a housekeeping change.
No.
Right? It sounds like there should be more input, there should be more discussion, and probably with the full board.
Yeah, it should be.
well, the next meeting, we could probably still revote if we wanted to, right?
Yeah, can we put the vote up for the,
I think we have to vote on it because it has to move forward, but I know like on the, like selectmen's ones, those can get revoted the day of deliberative.
Well, we
Because it's a public hearing,
Good.
so you gotta put a vote out there.
We can change it, but then we would have to review the changes either at another meeting or at another public hearing.
Right.
So you're saying we could make those changes that we liked what you did on that? That could be done.
Well, we
but
could
it
do
would
that
be a
now.
rush.
If you read it.
Well, I remember having the discussion with you, and
Yes.
I remembered it sounded, you were going in the right direction, let's put it that way. And then it got dropped.
I could read you an option that I had talked about, and if you like that 10 times better,
But
then we can try to have another public hearing. When's our next meeting?
2 weeks.
17th.
17th.
Oh, we had to do it by the 10th.
Yeah, so the last day to post and publish notice for zoning amendments for the last hearing, that's on the 18th. And
Oh, the
they need to be
17th.
posted for
Time.
10 business days? 5 business days? I don't do any of the posting, so I don't know. I can look it up.
I'd really like to see that. Really would.
What's that?
Yeah.
Well, it just seems that it's not a housekeeping change.
But I think if we can get it changed now, in time,
I don't see the need to rush it through.
Notice of the planning board hearing must be posted in 2 places and published in a locally circulated newspaper or on the municipal website at least 10 days in advance of the hearing.
So it has to be done.
So,
When's our next meeting?
7th.
17th?
So really, it has to be done by this Friday. Today's what, the 3rd?
Yep.
7th falls on a Sunday, right?
Yep. So if we can have Dee post about it.
But we have to make sure legal can see it too. Well, for one, they should I'm hoping he'd be able to look through it quick enough.
Yeah, it's not super long either.
So did you say you mailed us a copy?
Yeah,
Well, there were a couple specimens that
I
you sent
emailed.
that were from,
and it was printed at one
Yeah.
point.
That was a while ago.
Oh,
There's
okay.
We probably started the discussion in October.
Right.
So one of the examples. The planning board shall require site plans to be submitted for review by any applicant seeking any of the following unless qualifying for projects or activities allowed under section B or C above, which I didn't include, sorry. Number 1, the construction of any non-residential use or multifamily dwellings. Number 2, the conversion or enlargement of existing non-residential or multifamily uses. The planning board shall consider the size and proportion of any building addition when determining whether site plan review is required. Any change of use to a building or site which does not have an approved site plan. The planning board may, at its discretion, waive this requirement if there is no anticipated impact on traffic, off-street parking, drainage, municipal services, or the surrounding neighborhood, which is a large concern. But this one, it says that we may waive. So that's cool. Number 4, approval required. Prior to land clearing, excavation, site preparation, construction, or any other such activity may begin on a site, and before any permit or such activities may be issued, final approval of the site plan is required as evidenced by the recording of the approved plans at the Rockingham County of Registry of Deeds. All activity on the site shall be performed in accordance with the approval. So this one covers construction, conversion, enlargement, change of use. But it offers opportunities for discretion by the planning board.
By the what?
It offers opportunities for discretion by the planning board.
Thus, it gives back to us.
Well, I like that in
And
the
this-
sense that anything that's, if there's discretion that's going to be exercised, it should be exercised by this body
Yeah.
and not.
And I didn't just pull this out of the air. This was stolen from another community.
So it's been vetted once, right, by another community.
Oh, we sure do hope so.
Yeah, you would, right?
It's on someone's ordinance currently.
So how quick do you think we could get that through? What's your opinion? Do you think we'd have time?
I have no idea. I've never spoken to him.
Just,
That's completely out of my wheelhouse.
no, I get that, but you've probably seen it in other communities, right? How quick usually, because we're just talking one, we're not talking, he's got to review all of them.
Paragraph.
I'm not sure. The only other place that am a circuit rider is East Kingston, and they operate very differently because they're itty bitty. So if it were them, I'd say no, probably not. But for Plastow, especially if we say that this has been taken from another zoning ordinance,
That hurts. I would think that would help.
no, that would help.
That would definitely help. That would definitely help. That would be to the benefit.
Yeah.
I think the best way to proceed.
So you're saying we table this and consider an alternative route to be determined on a very short timeline?
Essentially.
Okay.
So here with the question, if we didn't table it, because obviously we got this already on the floor with a motion in a second. Could we then go back at the public hearing if we like the other one better and get rid of this one?
Why don't we vote this one down and do the other one at the public
But you
hearing?
can't vote it down because the way
Yeah, we
it
could
is.
just say, you could vote against it, right?
Right, but that
that's a
doesn't
vo-
mean it's
that's a
not gonna be on the
vote.
ballot. That's what I'm trying to get to that point, to figure out the right way to do
Sure
it.
that we could do
Because say if everybody voted against it right now, it's gonna go on the ballot, because say 0-4-0.
Right.
So, but that doesn't mean that it's still going to the voters.
All right.
That's what it is. So that's what I'm trying
So
to
we're
get to
trying to
that
get
point.
over
Alright.
that, right.
That's what I'm trying to figure out,
Okay.
how to get around it, right?
Sounds good. Yeah.
No, that sounds good to me.
So if,
It's better than
that's
what's
the
going
question,
on.
and I don't know if you know the answer, Victoria, right? But if we got to vote on this, right? So we vote on this, we come back, we get everything through legal and back on, we get the public hearing. At that point, can we keep the same amendment and just change this to what gets
Right,
approved?
do we have to put the old amendment back on? No.
So the new proposed language is what needs to be posted legally.
Correct. Correct. But what I'm saying is, we have to vote on this one tonight, correct?
I thought that you could just continue it and change
Okay, we
it.
can continue it until the next, okay,
Yeah,
I'm just
I'd
trying
like
to
to
get
do
all
that.
our options on the table
Yeah.
to make sure we do this and
That's what
do
I
it
wanna
right. That's
Anyway,
the main thing I want to get done. So if,
When you have a motion and a second,
it would have to be pulled, we'd have to rescind it.
you have to rescind it.
Correct, we haven't got to that point yet. But I have a feeling we're going to that.
I thought so, but I was trying to
So
get through to it.
if we table this,
You know, it doesn't explicitly say what you do when, because these changes were already supposed to be made. It doesn't explicitly say. So I don't know.
well, if you get legal okay to it, I mean, that is gonna have to be looked at legally. And if they say it can be done, then,
Yes, but as for the process that we're undergoing right now,
that's the whole thing.
I
is figuring
honestly
out the
don't know.
process.
Right.
So what are we? From what you're
we
reading?
still could do it.
I don't know. Let me read the RSA again.
Yeah, let's.
I don't think that it explicitly talks about if a planning board votes to have an amendment go to public session and then during the public session decides not. I don't think that
I
it
was under the
explicitly says
understanding that
anything.
this particular meeting, at a public hearing, what I understood was it can't be a major change, but if it's considered,
I don't know how they worded it.
a change could be made, but you can't make a major change. I don't.
Yeah, and this would be a major change.
I mean, at the,
Oh, it's definitely a
General.
major change.
Yeah. Of course.
So you're gonna have to go to legal.
It's just
You're
that
gonna have to do that,
we just got to figure out the process of everything.
getting it changed.
So it just says if after the public hearing, the planning board makes substantive changes to the proposed zoning amendment, it must hold a second public hearing.
Right.
So that leads me to believe that we can make the significant changes right now
Okay.
and repost public notice for a second public hearing
There you go.
with the new language.
Okay, so,
Is that good?
so what you're suggesting,
I like
I just want to make sure we get this right.
Yeah.
So if we propose to make the change that you're suggesting,
Mm-hmm.
then that would override what we said here, right?
Yes. And then we would just need to have a second
Yeah.
public.
Public hearing, but it would also have to be reviewed by legal.
Yes.
That is probably
Believe
not the
so.
problem.
So that's what we're looking at. So if you could do me one favor,
Yeah.
reread the changes that you want to make.
Yeah, so it would be a repeal and replacement of our whole site plan applicability.
Yep.
The planning board shall require site plans to be submitted for review by any applicant seeking any of the following: the construction of any non-residential use or multi-family dwellings. Number one, the construction of any non-residential use or multi-family dwellings. Number two, the conversion or enlargement of existing non-residential or multi-family uses. The conversion or enlargement of existing non-residential or multi-family uses. The planning board shall consider the size and proportion of any building addition when determining whether site plan review is required. So conversion or enlargement of existing non-residential or multifamily, planning board has discretion. Number three, any change of use to a building or site which does not have an approved site plan. The planning board may, at its discretion, waive this requirement if there is no anticipated impact on traffic, off-street parking, drainage, municipal services, or the surrounding neighborhood. Again, any change of use to a building or site which does not have a site plan. Again, planning board has discretion to waive. Number four, approval required. So prior to land clearing, evacuation, site preparation, construction, or any other such activity may begin on a site, and before any permit or such activities may be issued, final approval of the site plan is required as evidenced by the recording of the approved plan or plans at the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds. There was an extra "of" in there. Rockingham County Registry of Deeds. All activity on the site shall be performed in accordance with the approval. So approval is required to do anything on site.
Okay. Does that sound better to everybody?
I do like the discretion,
Yeah, I like
the
discretion too.
the
And back to
planning
us
board being
now.
able to exercise discretion.
Yep,
as long as you can get
yes,
it
you
done in
may,
time.
Dan, yep.
The only thing as I listen to that, I think it's fine. In 3 and 4, you don't talk about non-residential and multifamily. That's the purview of the planning board. You're going to argue that that's a given because it doesn't, it would have been outside the RSA. I could probably kind of go with that. But you, in points 1 and 2, you specifically non-residential and multifamily use. In 3 and 4, you don't. And they're all one and they should all be one and the same.
Well, 3 still has discretion from the planning board, and 4, approval required is for pretty much everything, regardless of use.
But it can't be. The planning board has no authority over residential use. According to the RSA, their uses are limited to non-residential and multifamily.
So then it wouldn't come to the planning board as a site plan.
That's my argument is, but again, going back to my accuracy and precision, if you're going to name it in 1 and 2, why not name it in 3 and 4? It's the same ordinance.
So any change of use to a building. You could do in parentheses, commercial, industrial, multifamily. Any change of use to a building, in parentheses, commercial, industrial, or multifamily, or site which does not have an approved site plan.
Again, you have a couple of thousand properties in the town that are residential properties that have no site plans.
There's no need for a site plan.
Correct.
On a
For
residential.
residential properties, right.
Yeah.
Going back to my specific experience, I'm a prisoner of that. That's an observation. I mean, I think if it had to be fought because it was applied to a residential use, I think it loses. But again, I'm concerned about interpretation and ambiguity.
But does adding commercial, multifamily, or industrial or multifamily in parentheses?
Well, I don't, that's your ad. I would use the terms that are in the site plan regulations, which is non-residential and multifamily dwelling. That's what's there.
Maybe change of use to a non-residential building?
Well, if the goal of 3 is to kind of capture properties, if you will, that don't have an existing site plan, maybe I'm confusing it with 4.
Yeah, I think it's cleaner if you say any change of use to a non-residential or multifamily building or a site which does not have an approved site plan. I think that's cleaner.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, I like that one.
You good with that, Victoria?
I'm good with that.
How's 4? Because that didn't have the same.
Don't ask much.
No, it's approval required. So you're not allowed to clear lands, do excavation or construction without approval. And that's fair.
On a residential lot?
I'm pretty sure it applies, not this, it does not apply to residential for this, but I am pretty sure within our building code, it would say something similar.
I mean, I own a
If you
farm.
don't have a building permit, then you're not allowed to do any
Correct.
work.
But you can do a lot of things to land without needing a building permit. I own a farm. I move earth around all the time. I don't excavate. I need soil here, I move it here.
I don't know. I kind of like the way it's written.
It would be in parentheses, it would be listed.
Well,
Well,
it says approval required prior to land clearing, excavation, site preparation, construction, or any other such activity may begin on site. You need to have approval.
Approval from who?
Approval from the planning board.
Not for residential property,
We're not talking about residential.
Well, we are, really, because we're not defining
They
anything.
shall be performed in accordance with the approval.
That says any property.
That couldn't be put in parentheses.
I don't want to beat this. You're going to have a hearing anyways. Those are my,
Yeah,
Those are
but
my
I'd like
points.
to make the changes before the hearing.
no, but hey, just someone who has a view. And if I'd known it was going to take this long, I wouldn't have wrote the letter.
And I would have appreciated that.
Should have called you and asked.
Well, doesn't that cover some of it? It's better than what's in there now.
No, it's much
Not-
much better. It's much better.
I'm good with what you have there and take that to the next public hearing. How do you feel? Richard,
I think it's better.
Yeah, it's definitely better.
you good with it? Okay, so here's what we'll do. Rescind your second,
I'll rescind my second.
and I'll rescind my first. Now I'll make a motion to change the wording in zoning amendment Z-24-07 to what we just discussed that Victoria had just read. You'll just need to get a copy over to Charlene of everything,
Please.
unless you have it all.
Well, and I'd like a copy too. We'd all like a copy.
Charlene, could you read that back,
And
please?
we'll need,
Yeah, if she could
I don't know
read
if
it
I gotta-
again, just to make sure.
as part of the motion, we have to post right in there, we need a public hearing.
Yes, motion to
Can we do it
And
the
then-
17th
move this to a public hearing.
meeting? Or that's too late?
Are you combining these things into, two things into one motion?
Let's
here?
keep it separate.
Yeah.
So you've got a motion.
So there's the motion.
I second it.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now I'll make another motion. That we have another public hearing on January 17th for proposed planning zoning amendment Z-24-07.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make it home before midnight.
Hey, we left last time at 10:15.
I'll try to read quickly.
No, you want to read it and read it right, right?
No, I-
So, you took the time to write it, so you want it done properly.
And emailing is right now.
Please, thank you.
Okay, can we all get a copy? I'd like a copy too.
You should have a copy in you.
Oh, you,
See, I don't have it back there. Oh, no, I have of this. I'm talking about of her.
yeah, that'll,
Yeah, it'll have to get sent to us.
Okay.
Want me to go?
Sure.
Okay.
Start. Go.
So, this is a citizen's petition to amend zoning ordinance, Plastow Town warrant. We, the undersigned registered voters of the town of Plastow, request the Board of Selectmen to insert the following article on the warrant for the March 12th, 2024 town meeting of Plastow, New Hampshire. Shall the town vote to approve the following addition to the Plastow zoning ordinance as Article Roman numeral 7B, Agritourism Overlay District as follows. Article 7, Roman numeral 7B, Agritourism Overlay District, AOD. Subsection 220-55.3, Authority. This article is based on the provisions and authority of the following New Hampshire revised statutes, annotated RSA. RSA 2134-A, Farm, Agriculture, and Farming. RSA 184, Roman numeral 5, Milk and milk products license required. RSA 236-74, Roman numeral 2, Regulation of erection and maintenance of certain advertising devices. RSA 425, 4, Roman numeral 9, Duties of the Commissioner. RSA 425, 2A, the Granite State Farm to Plate Food Policy and Principles. RSA 432, 33, Right to Farm, Immunity from Suit. RSA 672-1, Declaration of Purpose, Roman numeral 3B and 3D. RSA 674-17, Purposes of Zoning Ordinances. RSA 674-21, Innovative Land Use Controls. RSA 674-26, Agriculture under Interim Zoning Ordinance. RSA 674-32A, Presumption. RSA 674-32B, Existing Agricultural Uses and Activities. RSA 674-32C, Other General Provisions. RSA 674-32D, Agritourism Permitted. Subsection 220-55.4, Objectives and Characteristics. The purpose of the Agritourism Overlay District AOD is, number one, to preserve working lands and support agricultural operations as herein defined, activities and practices of farms within the town of Plastow as a viable economic activity, and discourage conversion of farmland to other incompatible uses. Number two, to provide clear municipal authority for agricultural land owners to launch agritourism activities in specific areas of the town of Plastow as a way to supplement their income, educate visitors about their way of life, and share their agricultural heritage with others. Number three, to protect and promote agriculture as an important component of the town of Plastow economy. Number four, to implement the goals and objectives of the town of Plastow Master Plan, which recognizes the economic, environmental, and cultural benefits of our agriculture and working lands. Number five, to empower farmers and other rural landowners to start new entrepreneurial endeavors that augment and highlight the importance of local agriculture. Number six, to attract visitors to the more rural areas of the town of Plastow to see and experience the value of local agricultural lands to our culture, economy, landscape, and local food supply. Number seven, to boost agricultural commerce in the town of Plastow by establishing a broad overlay district that reduces barriers and inconsistencies among the existing districts while maintaining and promoting the high quality of the environment and the economy in rural sections of the town of Plastow. Number eight, this chapter places no new restrictions or limitations on legal, existing, or permitted uses within the underlying districts in the AOD. The intent of this section is only to add new permitted uses and to ease some land use restrictions which pose regulatory barriers to a healthy and sustainable agricultural economy. Additionally, this section is meant to promote and build on the inherent strengths of the town of Plastow with a particular focus on preserving the rural charm now attached to the town. The provisions of this article applies only to those districts where agriculture is expressly permitted under the town of Plastow. Subsection 220-55.5, definitions. Capitalized terms shall have the meaning defined here within the town of Plastow zoning ordinance and/or the New Hampshire RSAs. Accessory farm structure. Any structure less than 3 stories above plain grade in height and other than a building principal located on an active farm is considered to be an accessory farm structure. All accessory farm structures are deemed to be agricultural structures and not commercial structures. Active farm. A farm with annual sales from on-farm produced agricultural products greater than $100,000. The owner of the active farm shall certify no less frequently than annually to the Town of Plastow Planning Board its compliance with this definition. Agricultural homestay establishment. A dwelling or existing structure on an active farm where the owners and/or/managers of the farm are physically residing on the same property for providing lodging and meals to visitors/guests for compensation. Agricultural operation. Agricultural operation, when used in this article, includes any farm, agricultural, or farming operation and/or activity, including any practice or activity on the farm, incident to, ancillary to, or in conjunction with such farming operations and/or activities as defined in RSA 2134A. Agricultural product. Any agricultural, horticultural, or floricultural commodity or product derived from crops grown on a farm under cultivated conditions or from livestock and poultry raised for human or livestock consumption. Also included within this definition is the production of maple syrup, honey, milk and milk products, defined as fluid milk, cultured fluid milk, cream, yogurt, raw milk yogurt, frozen yogurt, sour cream, eggnog, butter, ice cream, gelato, and cheese aged at least 60 days. AOD use or structure. Any use or structure used in an agricultural operation that furthers the pursuit of agritourism, which means attracting visitors to a farm to attend events or activities that are accessory uses to the farm's operation, including but not limited to being provided a meal, making overnight stays, enjoyment of the farm environment, education, which shall be instruction or learning about the farm's operations, or active involvement in the activities of the farm. Notwithstanding any provision within this article, the maximum footprint of all AOD structures shall occupy no more than 5% of the total land area of an active farm. Beer festival, as defined in RSA 178:30. Cider mill. A cider mill or cidery is the location and equipment used to crush apples into apple juice for use in making apple cider, hard cider, apple jack, apple wine, pectin, and other products derived from apples. Craft distillery, a liquid manufacturer licensed pursuant to RSA 178:6, producing no more than 5,000 9-liter cases of distilled spirits annually. Farm, a farm shall be defined by RSA 2134A. Farm stand, a farm roadside stand subject to the requirements of RSA 2134A, Roman numeral 3, contained within a temporary or permanent structure located on a farm and used to display and sell agricultural products and other products. Full-service restaurant, as defined in RSA 175(1), Roman numeral 33. Microbrewery, a brewery as defined in RSA 175(1), licensed as a brew pub pursuant to RSA 178:13, or nanobrewery, licensed pursuant to RSA 178:12-A, manufacturing beer, mead, specialty beer, cider and/or specialty cider not exceeding 2,500 barrels annually. Small-scale craft beverage producer, a beverage manufacturer licensed pursuant to RSA 178:12, or a rectifier licensed pursuant to RSA 178:7, producing no more than 20,000 9-liter cases of beverages annually. Small-scale winery, a wine manufacturer licensed pursuant to RSA 178:8, producing no more than 20,000 9-liter cases of wine domestic, wine fortified, and/or wine table annually. Wine and liquor festival, as defined in RSA 178:31. Subsection 220-55.6, conflicts with other regulations. If a specific AOD standard or regulation conflicts with other specific standards in the Town of Plastow zoning ordinance, the AOD rules and standards shall apply. Additionally, if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, phrase, or other portion of this article or its application to any person is, for any reason, declared invalid, illegal, or unconstitutional in whole or in part by any court or agency of competent jurisdiction, said decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions thereof. Subsection 220-55.7, general standards. General standards for all AOD uses, instructions within the AOD shall be as follows. Number one, all AOD uses and structures within the AOD are deemed to be agricultural and not commercial. Number two, AOD uses and structures shall incorporate a rural theme in terms of building style and design. This means that AOD uses involving new AOD structures shall complement or enhance rather than detract from the rural environment. Number three, new AOD structures shall be located, designed, and operated so as not to interfere with the agricultural operations, activities, and practices on an active farm. New AOD structures are limited to lands not in current use, as that term is defined within RSA 79A, lands with poor agricultural soils, as identified in the New Hampshire Soil Data Directory, or lands otherwise not suitable for agricultural purposes. No new AOD structures are permitted if they would have a demonstrated adverse effect on public health or safety or on the value of adjacent property. Number four, subject to the provisions of RSA 674-32C, Roman numeral 2, dimensional standards, setbacks, driveway and traffic regulations, parking requirements, noise, odor, or vibration restrictions are the same as established within the underlying district for all AOD uses and structures. Number five, AOD uses and structures shall comply with all federal, state, and local laws, regulations, and rules, including agricultural best management practices guidelines adopted by the Commissioner of the Department of Agricultural Markets and Foods. Number six, safe vehicular access and customer parking shall be provided on site such that vehicles are not required to back into public roads. AOD structures and parking shall be located outside of public rights of way. All parking and loading standards will comply with the Town of Plastow site plan regulations. Number seven, any exterior lighting installed related to an AOD use of structure shall be appropriately shielded and directed generally downwards to minimize traffic safety impacts and light pollution. All lighting will comply with the Town of Plastow site plan regulations. Parcel size standards, number eight, parcel size standards. Unless otherwise specified, the minimum parcel size for AOD uses within the AOD is 10 acres and not less than 250 feet of frontage if adjacent to a right-of-way. Exceptions to the 10-acre minimum parcel size and/or the 250-foot frontage requirement may be considered through a variance process in accordance with the Town of Plastow zoning ordinance. Number nine, maximum structure size. The maximum square footage for any new structure related to an AOD use is 20,000 square feet, except as otherwise stated by this article. Existing buildings may be used for AOD uses regardless of size. Number 10, the following signs are permitted on an active farm within the AOD. 2 on-site 24 square foot freestanding signs are permitted so long as both signs are located on a state highway. Otherwise, 1 on-site 30 square foot freestanding sign is permitted. The freestanding signs and supporting structures may not exceed 10 feet in height. Each accessory farm structure shall also be allowed up to 2 signs attached to a building facade, provided that the following restrictions are met. If both signs are attached to the same accessory farm structure facade, then the total square footage of both signs shall not exceed 10% of the building facade to which they are affixed. Number 2, if the signs are attached to different accessory farm structure facades, then one sign shall not exceed 10% of the facade to which it is affixed, and the other sign shall not exceed 5% of the facade to which it's fixed. Number 3, the accessory farm structure facade is calculated by measuring from roof line to foundation and subtracting out any glass. All freestanding attached signs within the AOD shall consist of wood construction only, shall be illuminated with indirect lighting, and shall be in keeping with the agricultural character of the active farm. Number 11, AOD uses and structures not otherwise permitted within the underlying zoning district and or not expressly defined within this article are not permitted in the AOD. However, nothing in this article will otherwise restrict, limit in any way, and/or prohibit existing permitted agricultural uses and/or structures. Number 12, nothing in this article shall apply to any aspect of an AOD operation, activity, and/or practice determined to be injurious to public health or safety under RSA 147. Nothing in this article shall be deemed to modify or limit the duties and authority of the Department of Environmental Services under RSA 485 or RSA 485A, or the Commissioner of Department of Agricultural Markets and Food under Title Roman numeral 40. Subsection 22055.8, exempt AOD uses and structures. Exempt AOD uses and structures are those uses and structures permitted as a matter of right under this article, i.e. no site plan is required. However, other local, state, or federal regulations, such as building, life safety, fire, and health, may have requirements that need to be met or approvals/permits that need to be obtained. Small I. The following standards shall apply to all exempt AOD uses and structures permitted by this article. A. Exempt AOD uses and structures involving on-site transactions with the public shall meet applicable vehicular access and parking regulations as identified within the Town of Plastow site plan review regulations. B, the Town of Plastow Planning Board or their designee shall determine if an unlisted use is exempt, permitted, or prohibited based on similarity to a listed use and the likely impacts of such unlisted use. C, exempt AOD uses and structures in this section are not subject to the parcel size standards. Small 2I. Exempt AOD uses and structures include, but are not limited to the following. A, manned and unmanned U-pick operations, including but not limited to vegetable and berry picking, pumpkin patches, and similar uses. B, Christmas tree and Christmas green sales. C, hay rides/sleigh rides. D, farm stands that meet the requirements established within RSA 2134A, Roman numeral 3, expressly permitted within a farm stand are licenses necessary to operate a retail food store and a food service establishment licensed for no greater than 50 seats, indoor and outdoor combined, and/or no more than 2 food prep areas. All farm stands possessing a retail food license and/or food service license shall comply with all applicable state and local building, life safety, fire, and health codes. E, homestead food operations, either exempt pursuant to RSA 143A5 or licensed pursuant to 143A12. Homestead food operations exclude the sale of potentially hazardous food as defined in RSA 143A12 IB. All homestead food operations shall comply with all applicable state and local building, life safety, fire, and health codes. F, direct sale to consumers of agricultural products. G, farm tours and agricultural clinics, educational seminars, or classes learning about the farm environment, organized group activities involving nature watching or stargazing with no overnight accommodations. H, agricultural activities, operations, and/or practices specifically exempted from the Town of Plastow site plan review regulations by state law and the Town of Plastow zoning ordinance. I, farmers markets operating pursuant to RSA 2134A, Roman numeral V. J, agriculturally related experiences occurring on an active farm where no structure is involved, i.e. corn/crop mazes, hay bale sculptures, and similar crop art installations, animal feeding, petting zoos, archery ranges, fee fishing, and similar low-intensity activities in conformance with all standards contained in this article and all other applicable sections of the Town of Plastow zoning ordinance. K, Activities and uses defined as nature tourism, geotourism, culinary tourism, art tourism, or ecotourism are permitted by right within the AOD on an active farm. In addition, such uses shall be designed and operated so as to enhance the economic viability of farming and maintain the rural character of the AOD by, small I, promoting locally grown and produced agricultural products, goods, and services, small 2I, emphasizing local, rural, and agricultural attributes such as local specialty crops, farming and rural culture, native and natural resources, local history, local food networks and relationships, and other elements which highlight the importance of local agriculture. And 3, attracting visitors who will see and experience the value of local agricultural lands to the culture and the economy of the town of Plastow, who may purchase locally grown and produced agricultural products, goods, and services. L, agricultural homestay establishments for the purpose of providing temporary accommodations to visitors and tourists shall only be located on an active farm. All applicable local and state and federal law permits and licenses shall be met/obtained prior to establishing an agricultural homestay establishment, including required state of New Hampshire and town of Plastow licenses. Agricultural homestay establishments shall be subject to the following limitations. 1, maximum length of stay is 10 days per visit. 2, maximum number of guests is 16 overnight guests per day. 3, guest units shall only be contained within an existing accessory farm structure or dwelling located within the existing not in current use area of an active farm to reduce the impact to agricultural lands. For purposes of this section, the existing not in current use area of a farm is that portion not in current use as of the date this article is adopted by the local legislative body. Subsection 220-55.9, permitted AOD uses and structures. The following AOD uses and structures are permitted within the AOD on an active farm subject to the town of Plastow site plan review regulations and site plan approval by the town of Plastow Planning Board. Number 1, small-scale wineries, microbreweries, cider mills, craft distilleries, and similar small-scale craft beverage producers with an associated full-service restaurant, tasting room, and or a retail space located on an active farm. Number 2, structures and mechanical, I always get this wrong, appurtenances? Necessary for the production, I was just going to say, mumble it, for the production and storage of locally produced wine, beer, cider, distilled spirit, and other craft beverages shall be exempt from maximum height limits pursuant to the town of Plastow zoning ordinance governing building height for chimneys, spires, towers, silos, tanks, and similar projections. 3, small-scale wineries, microbreweries, cider mills, craft distilleries, and other small-scale craft beverage producers within the AOD on an active farm may also include the following accessory uses. I, product tasting facilities. 2I, retail sales of wine, beer, cider spirits, and other craft beverages produced on site. Small 3I, full-service restaurant. Small Roman numeral 4, tours, seminars, parties, weddings, and other temporary uses allowed under Section 4 of this article titled Short-Term Events are permitted at small-scale wineries, microbreweries, cider mills, craft distilleries, and other small-scale craft beverage production facilities within the AOD on an active farm. 4, short-term events such as beer festivals, food, wine, and liquor festivals, art shows, weddings, corporate gatherings, and similar temporary gatherings within the AOD on an active farm are permitted in accordance with the following. Short-term events up to 30 days per year involving no more than 150 individuals daily are allowed as a matter of right. Short-term events exceeding 30 days per year and or involving more than 150 individuals daily may be permitted with the approval of the planning board. On-site parking shall be provided in accordance with the town of Plastow site plan review regulations. D, I forgot C there. All local public health, noise, food handling, building, and other applicable regulations shall be followed. E, for short-term events lasting 2 or more days and with an expected daily attendance exceeding 150 individuals, the on-site manager or owner of the active farm shall notify all abutters in writing of the date, time, duration, and description of the event. Notification shall occur at least 5 business days prior to the beginning of the event. F, short-term events not meeting the criteria contained in this section are not permitted within the AOD. If you are in favor of including the proposed addition to the Plastow zoning ordinance, Article Roman numeral 7B, Agritourism Overlay District in the Plastow Town warrant, please indicate your approval by signing below.
Very good.
I was less eloquent than Bill.
Both did. Good job. Good job tonight, guys. Thank you. Very good. Very well written.
Reading War and Peace might have been shorter.
Oh, very well done. It's about included everything.
Do you want to ask questions or?
Are there
Yeah,
any
go right
discussion here first?
Well, just, generically putting it out there, I think, in keeping with the master plan, something like this is, I think, consistent and coherent with that. We've talked about wanting to, ways in which we could help or encourage aspects of a business in town. And this represents, a citizen trying to provide articulation to those goals.
Right.
So.
It's definitely something that's needed, I think, in the town, right? The agritourism.
That's what I was going to say.
The, we don't have anything, and I think it does need to be done. The only, I guess, points where I might kind of have a problem is some of the exemptions. With the AOD standard, if there's any conflicts, say with the town zoning ordinance, things like that, would take precedence over that. I guess that's kind of where I'm trying to wrap my head around that, right?
I'll tell you why I did it.
No,
Yeah,
it would
that's
be good.
helpful.
Yeah, because I'm thinking it's almost like, I see that, it's like, okay, boom, you can do whatever you want, and you can exempt over the town. But that's my quick read on it.
It's not intended for that. What I was trying to do is eliminate any ambiguity and not have this ordinance kind of like peeled apart like an onion, So to say is, and if I looked at the entire zoning ordinance, I didn't see areas where I thought this would be necessarily in conflict, but I'm not 100%. And I was concerned about this being peeled around with, as far as this would govern. I think it's like anything else. We did a whole stormwater, ordinance last year, and this year we kind of fixed some pieces. We've done the same thing with all the water resources and stuff. So, my idea was to give it the best shot I could, and then see, okay, how does this play out?
But to me, that's my biggest issue,
Yeah.
right? And, being honest, as you know, I do frequent the farm.
Yes.
So I am a fan of it, and I do support the different things you're trying to do out there. And it's like anything else, just like we went through the last thing, how long did we dissect that, and every which way to Sunday, right?
There's over 2,500 words in this ordinance.
I believe that.
Is there going to be something in here that everyone, doesn't like?
No, I know,
There will.
it's like that thing, but I'm saying that's my problem, is just being able to kind of do what you want with the different structures, not subject to the parcel size standards that we have in town. I just want everybody to be held to the same standards in town. Granted, I know agritourism's a little different, and I fully support exactly what you're trying to do. I supported what was here, what at our last meeting when they gave us the conceptual design. I was fully in support of that. I thought that building looks phenomenal.
I mean, the thing is too, you really have to delve into, which is why I anchored it to the RSAs as much as I could.
Right.
And I used the town of Hampton as my basis for this ordinance.
Yeah.
So and I will tell you, the wording, I crafted it, but the theme was based on existing agritourism zoning ordinance all throughout the country.
It's something that I'm sorry.
No, go
It's
ahead.
something that we needed. It's something that was not addressed. The farm has been there forever. And I think if you talk to other farmers and you talk to others in the state, that all of them have been quite longtime members, and they have agreed with everything they have done, and they have done nothing to upset anybody in their particular areas. And it was part of our master plan is what keeps coming up. What can we do to improve? And so this master plan could not have been more thankful to have a business like farming to come into the town of Plastow, but be recognized and to be legalized and no problems, because it's very necessary to everybody. It's not something that is just good for so-and-so and so-and-so. It's good for the whole town. And I just think being local makes it even nicer that we could support somebody locally.
I mean, one of the things is I live on Main Street,
Right.
I would like to see Main Street, a little homier. But, there's a farm right here on Main Street.
Correct.
Right.
Is something like this could be an anchor for something there. And, I will tell you, that will change the culture of Main Street in a very, very short period of time.
Trust me, I'm in favor of breweries. I'm an Irishman. That's my history.
I've been brewing beer for 25 years. I just want to find a place where I can do it. And this doesn't change any dimensional standards. You're still subject to them. But I will tell you that when you read through the RSA, there is provisions in the RSA that say that if farm operations need relief, and I'm paraphrasing, they can go to the ZBA from dimensional standard setbacks, and the ZBA is duty bound to approve them if it's not, if it's not injurious to public health. I mean, I can
Health and safety. Yeah.
read the thing. So there are elements here, but it wasn't attempted to take a 20,000 square foot lot and put on, it just doesn't do that.
No, I get that, but it's, if you kind of read it, you could interpret it that way,
Yeah.
right? And that's just like we had with the last one that we went over. And that's personally, that's where my problem is
Yeah.
with it. It's like, I wish this came to us a while ago and we could have sat down and said, we crafted this and that, but timing doesn't always work out for everyone. I get that. We all have lives, we all have everything else. That's my only thing.
Yep.
But we definitely need something with agritourism. We definitely do.
Huh?
But I know that's just like I said, that's where my issues are with this one.
And this is an easy one. This is either, this is going as it is on the ballot,
Correct. Right.
Just a question. You said you kind of crafted or modeled it after, let's say, other areas of the country. I mean, so this isn't invented whole cloth. You mentioned the fact that Northampton was a model,
Yeah, I have it.
but what other parts of the country?
Lancaster, Pennsylvania, southeastern Washington State, County.
Yeah, Washington State, yeah.
I went to places where agritourism was completely embraced, Massachusetts.
Right.
So, and I looked at, so there's roughly 88 to 90, if you will, pure play agritourism operations in the state of New Hampshire, out of 4,100 farms. when you add, like, when you take it and try to mirror like what Sweet Hill Farm does, just as the specific example, not necessarily here, is, we have direct sales and we do some agritourism things already, hay rides, sleigh rides, that kind of thing. There's only 130, that increases the number of agritourism and direct sale to 136 farms out of 4,100 in the state, When you start looking at all the border states around us, those similar type operations, 200 in Massachusetts, 250 in
Vermont,
Maine,
too.
they have more, New Hampshire sits behind it. So, but yes, the long answer to a short question was, I did look at it. I looked at everything. There's certainly some of me here as I cleaned up language and stuff, but most of it takes right out of existing ordinances.
Anyone else want to talk? I know you've
Yes.
probably all been sitting here all night for this.
I would like to echo everything that everyone has already said, but I have a big issue with conflicts with other regulations in terms of our stormwater ordinance, any sort of wetlands regulations, and the Aquifer Protection District. Also, I went through the definitions. I understand that you pulled these from someone else, but a lot of them are wrong. Craft distillery, a liquor manufacturer licensed pursuant to RSA 178, Section 6, producing no more than 5,000 9-liter cases.
That's
It's
all.
3,000.
I did that. I did those. They had a lot of them had no limitations on the license was just pursuant to the issuance of license.
So pursuant to the issuance of a license is 3,000 9-liter cases. For a microbrewery, you wrote down 2,500. It's 2,000.
No, it's not. That's for a nano brewery. I can guarantee you that.
I have the RSA right in front of me.
I'm just telling you, it's 2,500 barrels annually for a brew pub. You're talking licensed as a brew pub is 2,500 barrels.
Small scale craft beverage producer, you wrote down 20,000 9-liter cases.
I made it the same as the winery.
RSA 178, Section 12 says 15. RSA 178, Section 7
Is a rectifier.
is rectifier, and that's, you're allowed to have 3,000 9-liter cases. I also was very confused on the small scale winery. It's not mentioned in RSA 178 like it was mentioned.
It's because the definition of wine, domestic wine, fortified, or wine table annually.
And then I'm wondering where you get the numbers for accessory farm structure. Any structure less than 3 stories above plain grain in height and other than a building principal located on an active farm is considered to be an accessory farm structure. I'm wondering where that definition came from.
It comes from the building code.
AOD use or structure. Notwithstanding any provision within this article, the maximum footprint of all AOD structures shall occupy no more than 5% of the total land area of an active farm. Just wondering where you got that as well.
Pulled it out of the zoning ordinance for I think Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The idea was to not have these structures just absorb all farmland. The whole idea here is the whole idea here is not necessarily agritourism. It's how to preserve an active farm. How do you make that? How do you not just have some piece of land that someone plops something on without it being an active farm?
So in essence, you would look to avoid a situation where someone has, let's say, small parcel and they put an Applebee's or something on it and say that it's.
The idea was, the whole idea that this is trying to do for Plastow is keep a farm here, okay?
Right.
And you're not going to keep that farm there without bringing people to the farm. You're just not going to do it. And the farm stand isn't going to do it on itself. And I've said this to a number of you. Anytime you push what you grow off that farm, it goes out that front gate, you're losing 50% of the value. It costs me too much in labor to sell wholesale, if you will. That's why I try to sell, I do flowers in the springtime, I do mums in the fall time, I grow poinsettias. I'm trying to always piece it together. And, if the standard for a farm stand is 35%, 65% of my sales come from goods on the farm. And it's still very difficult to keep that farm going. So that's the motivation here is that.
Yeah, I think that we all understand the motivation.
Yeah, I don't.
And then there's exempt AOD uses and structures include, and I think all of them are very fair, but then you ask yourself to what end? And when you did put down maximum footprint of all AOD structures shall occupy no more than 5% of total land area, which I think is very fair. I'm just wondering how you would get to that number if all these uses don't have a site plan. You know what I mean? Like, how do you total them up and find out what 5% is if none of it's written down?
Virtually most of them don't require a site plan now.
No, they don't.
Agriculture is a residential use in most of the zoning districts here. It's covered.
But how do you get to that 5%? How do you calculate it?
Same way I would calculate lot coverage, the same way I calculate what's in current use and what's not in current use.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a plan on file with the assessor's office that has, my current use calculation it's a full site plan.
Okay. Still big fat red question mark on the quantities of 9-liter cases though.
Yeah, I'll have to pull that off because I thought I pulled these right from the RSAs. Obviously, I thought I did because I wouldn't have quoted them.
No, a question.
They're all slightly above what they are currently.
In the event that the numbers are not in accord, let's say, with what the RSA is saying, the RSA still governs, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
All right, so.
If we remember to catch it.
Well, isn't that the normal ebb and flow of what we do?
Right.
When we're refining, our definitions
I sure
and
hope
things like
not.
that.
You do it all the time.
I wish we could have worked together on this.
Well, I wish we could too, but the reality, there was some different things going on, you know? And when it became clear to me that I thought that, agritourism was appearing on the agenda, I didn't want it to wash all over me.
Yeah.
Okay? So,
I think, to get
I'm
to
not the
main
public
point.
servant in this equation, I mean.
But it is something though that, that if let's say Plastow decided to move forward with this,
Right.
that the planning board could, or some other body or something like that would work with the planning board or something to sort of tighten up these things, right?
Right.
Yeah. Just as it stands now, some of the numbers are wrong, and there's no protection for stormwater, the wetlands, or the aquifer protection.
But we follow the site plan regulations. That's what it says, Those are, and the zoning ordinance. Those are already in the ordinance.
Yeah,
I mean, if
but
that's
then
the-
it could, with the section that says conflicts with other regulations.
Yeah, it's that first
The
sentence, right?
AOD overpowers these things that are in play that are really important to the.
Most certainly does not. I mean,
If a specific AOD standard or regulation conflicts with other specific standards in the town of Plastow zoning ordinance, the AOD rules and standards shall apply.
What standard are you talking that it conflicts with? It doesn't conflict with stormwater, or it doesn't conflict with Those are part of the zoning ordinance. It says this, we have to comply with the zoning ordinance. I guess I don't,
Well, I think it's like page 3, I think is what you're talking about.
There it is, it's that first sentence.
Right. So I mean, it's just,
it's not intended to,
So in our wetlands ordinance, there's limited use buffers that would be completely wiped out by this.
no, that's not true. That's not true. That's not what this does.
But the first sentence
It does.
says that the AOD rules and standards shall apply.
You're reading it in a broad way to say, because I didn't refer to the wetland, I referred to the zoning ordinances in macro. We have to comply with wetlands. We comply with it now. I've got a prime wetlands that borders the back end of my property. I'm outside the buffer from using any fertilizer or anything like that. I already do that now. And this is all things that are driven, essentially by the zoning ordinance. It's not.
because it's the last sentence, it sounds like you're saying that if for whatever reason, some particular part of this conflicts or is found to be invalid in some way, then, it looks like it'd be stricken out but the whole ordinance itself would.
That's standard language. Hey, listen, I had 3 lawyers who are intimately familiar with planning and zoning. Look at this. This is not,
All right, that's fine.
But hey, you have your concerns. I get it. This is going to end up in the hands of the people.
Yep, and that's where it should be.
We're going to make our case and we'll see what happens.
No, and, and make your case, and I'll tell you, like I said earlier, I support the farm. And, I've been there, in the last meeting, like I said, when we saw the conceptual design for the brew pub, I think it looks phenomenal. And I think this town would embrace something like that, but I just have some concerns
Yeah,
about this.
no, fair enough.
And I want to be honest.
Yeah, I don't take them.
Ditto. And I
think
echoing
the
what they
main-
said.
The main whole purpose here was we had nothing. Now we are trying to bring in agriculture, tourism into this so that it helps both, that the town will understand and the farm.
Yeah, and there's a whole, with that site plan you saw, there's a whole stormwater management piece to it.
No, I did see all that. I
It's
did see all
needed.
that.
It's definitely needed because otherwise we get into trouble.
It is
What's
needed, but
been happening.
I know, but it's like the last thing we discussed, right? The wording should have been better, so we changed it. The wording is what it is here.
Oh, the
I'm just-
wording on this is,
This is
No,
this is
I'm just
orders
saying-
of magnitude.
I'm just saying, I have some concerns, that's all I'm
compare the
saying.
two.
Yeah, no, I think this is excellent.
All
I think
right,
it's something that I would like to be associated
Thank you
with
for your
Plastow.
time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. for
Anyone
coming.
else, you want to say anything?
No, thank you for
you.
coming.
I'll listen to your vote, so.
Will someone have to make a motion, then we vote?
Yep. Motion on this one?
I move that the proposed citizens petition CP 24-01 be posted to the warrant for March town meeting as recommended by the planning board.
I'll second it. Now we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. And I'm a no as well, only because I have some concerns. It's not that I don't support the farm, and I know we do need an agritourism, it's just some of the language in there, that's all it is.
Good luck on the voters. Getting
Good
information
good
out.
luck.
Good luck.
What?
220 or 20?
I know how to do
Abstain
it,
is
even when
in
they
the
don't
middle.
say it right.
Oh my God, it's 10 o'clock.
Simple as that.
220. Okay.
Something
All right,
that's needed
what's
for a long
next?
time.
Nothing is next.
Okay, anything under old business or new business?
New business is now old business at this time of night.
Yeah, well, yeah, it should be. So I don't know if either,
I don't have anything.
nope, nope. Victoria? No?
No.
Okay,
I'll have new business next time.
then we'll close the meeting at, oh, shall we say 10? Yeah, we're going to say 10 o'clock. 1 minute after.
Close enough.